I'm back. I mostly was not sick this past week. I lost my voice. If you noticed, for those of you that listen to the Culture War podcast on Friday, there was a point where I was like coughing something up, just lost my voice. And then I was kind of like sick Sunday. And then I'm like, I'll be fine tomorrow. And then I woke up on Monday being like, I can't talk. And then Tuesday, I was like, I still can't talk. And then by Wednesday, I was like, okay, we got to get somebody to host the show because like 1 or 2 days out and I thought I'd be fine. But so a special thank you to Jack Posobiec and Seamus Coughlin for hosting the show in my absence. I have returned. We are here to talk about news. And as we're preparing for the show, huge news is breaking. We don't know if that's we don't know what's true and what's not. There's a lot of propaganda. You got to be careful. But the reports that are coming out is that there is a potential military coup or civil war starting in Russia. I'm going to stand back and be like, I am skeptical of this. But apparently the private military contractor, the Wagner group, apparently is saying that they're going to stop the corruption in Russia. And then Russia is deploying troops to try and gain control of things. I don't know how much of this is true. We're going to talk about all of that, plus a lot of other big issues. I think we got to talk about this cage match with Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg because, I've been out all week. I do want to address the debate that Joe Rogan offered up and the money. I know it's a week-old story, but I haven't been here all week, so explaining my position on why I offered the $100,000 to add to this and to refute a lot of the points that were made by some of these people that are clearly lying and just absolutely address. Look, they say don't have debates. We had a show with Emma Vigeland and Sean, actual Justice Warrior, who's here with us today, right now, actually on the show. And I thought it was fantastic. I thought we absolutely do want to have more of these debates, conversations, whatever you want to call them. So the fact that there are people saying not to do it is a problem, and we'll address that. But we'll talk about a bunch of stuff. Before we do, my friends, of course, head over to castbrew.com and purchase Cast Brew coffee. We got a bunch of awesome flavors. You can join the Cast Brew Coffee Club. You'll get 3 bags per month. And you can also buy the Rise with Roberto Jr., which I think is our most popular blend. It is a light roast. And with every purchase, you get a picture of Roberto Jr., our rooster. He does a good job of taking care of his chicken ladies out in Chicken City. So support our work. The purpose of Cast Brew is our brand as we're launching the coffee shop. It is currently under construction. And I got to tell you, for those of you who know construction, you know exactly what's going on. I'm sure I can hear Trump. He knows exactly what this is all about. The moment you start building, they're like, in 2 months, you'll be done. And then they knock down a wall or something. And they're like, look what we found. And now you got to go to permitting. Now it's another month. And they're like, after we did this, we discovered this and we discovered this. And so now it's like, okay, we're going to redo the building. We should just be done with it. So we're jammed up on that. But in the meantime, we are selling Cast Brew coffee. So please consider supporting us. We sponsor ourselves because we don't want to rely on companies that could pull their sponsorship, and we want to build a parallel economy. Also, don't forget, you can download the Timcast Android mobile app by going to timcast.com and clicking mobile app. It's available for Android right now. Both apps are done, but we need Apple and Google to approve of us to put us in the App Store. For the time being, you can download Android. Don't forget to also become a member to support our work. I've been gone all week. So I want to say this. A special thank you to every single one of our members. Before we were doing any kind of membership website, I could not take sick time off because all of the revenue generated was predicated upon whether or not I uploaded a video. But I just want you all to know how much it means to me. Because you guys are members at timcast.com, I know that if I can't physically work because I lost my voice or I'm sick or something, that the people who are working on the infrastructure and behind the scenes at timcast.com don't have to worry about not getting a paycheck. We don't have to worry about the company going out of business. Because you guys are members, you allow us the opportunity to sometimes get sick. So I really, really do appreciate it. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is the wonderful Benny Johnson.
What up? How we doing? We out here.
We are.
I've been reading the comment section. Yes, it is me up in the comment section with my Timcast beanie. This is a 50 cal. This is inside of the thumbnail. But it is also a reveal. A pen.
It is a pen. I have another one here. This is from a company called Accidentally Awesome. And I saw these on their stand. They were in West Virginia at Charlestown. And I'm like, 50 BMG, what's that? And I grab it. I'm like, this has got to be something. And that's a pen. It's wonderful. So there you go.
Cheers.
Yeah. We got Sean hanging out.
Hi.
He's back.
I live here now, actually.
Yeah.
After the early morning appearance, Tim is like, I guess you're here, so just stay here. So
yeah, I was like, when are you leaving? He's like, I'm not. And I'm like, come on the show. Yeah. There you go. All right, we got Brett hanging out.
What is going on, guys? It's Brett. I am the host of Pop Culture Crisis, Monday through Friday. You should go check out today's episode, but let's talk politics.
Let's do it. Before we get started, I just want to thank you, Tim, for taking the week off. It's a strange, bittersweet thing. It was an example of how this company can function and flourish without Tim having to be on the floor every day. The amount of people you know that are cool, the amount of employees that you've hired that are cool, that can take the reins and move this thing along, whether you're here or not. It is, I think, when you look at companies like The Blaze, where Glenn Beck started it, but now he's able to just have a show and have a huge, awesome company of interviewers and shows. Like, that's the direction. I love it. It was wonderful to be a part of. Thank you. What's happening, Serge?
Yeah, it was good, but I'm glad you're back, Tim. It's going to be easier to keep on the rails than with Seamus running everything. So,
I heard you spilled water during the show.
Yeah, you spilled it right on your keyboard.
During
the whole thing.
The show.
Yeah, during the show.
And everybody saw it happen.
Yes, it was live on air. So, anyways, glad you're back, man. Let's go.
All right, so here's the first story from the Daily Mail. Coup fears as Wagner army marches on Moscow to target evil military chiefs. Kremlin accuses a leader of mercenaries of inciting civil war, puts its troops on capital streets and vows to smash armed mutiny as state TV runs emergency bulletin. This is crazy. They say there are fears of a coup in Russia as military vehicles were seen in the streets after the chief of the is it Wagner Group or is it Wagner Group?
Wagner sounds cooler.
I think that's actually the appropriate pronunciation. They called for an armed rebellion and direct challenge to the Kremlin. Yevgeny Prigozhin said his force had crossed into Russia as he called for the ousting of Russia's defense minister and vowed to punish military leaders whom he accused of killing 2,000 of his fighters. The Wagner chief said, "We had crossed state borders. We'll destroy anything that gets in the way. We go all the way." We got this photo here. Armored vehicles were allegedly on the streets of Moscow. So the first thing I got to say is, what is that saying? Believe half of what you, what is it? Believe half of what you see and none of what you read or hear or whatever. I don't know, something like that. Take it all with a grain of salt. I don't know for sure. But I will say this. When I first heard this story, I was like, what, did NATO offer him double? Like, this is how it goes with PMCs. Yeah. He's fighting in Ukraine. They're getting demolished. And then he's like, it's not worth the money. He's a private military contractor. What does he care? And then NATO says, what are they paying you, dude? And he was like, 50 million. He's like, okay, we'll give you 200. And he was like, okay, sure. That's all it takes, right?
Money printing machine goes burr.
This is the danger of hiring mercenaries to fight a war. Happened to the Rome. I don't know if this is exactly what happened with the Romans, but they were bringing in mercenaries from all over the world to come and fight for the Romans because the Roman citizens got to a point where they didn't want to fight anymore. And then that's the beginning of the end because those people do not have any allegiance to your country.
This is the American Revolution. They brought in, the British brought in German mercenaries.
The Hessians.
Yeah.
Hessians, is that it?
Yeah.
And those were the people who got routed by when George Washington, I almost said Joe Biden, my God. When George Washington crossed the Delaware, it was the Hessians who got routed.
Christmas Eve?
Yeah, the famous painting, right? The most famous painting of the Revolutionary War. That's who he was going to fight. The Germans, actually.
Yeah, I mean, there is obviously value to having a more robust fighting force, including mercenaries. But if you're relying on mercenaries, you're in a very precarious position.
This is what I never understood. You see a movie where it's like someone hires a hitman. I'm like, and they always say like, "What are they paying you? I'll pay you double." It's just like, why would not the assessment be like, well, okay, sure.
Are they going to turn me in if I don't do this? I don't think they're going to do
You have
that.
a reputation to protect as a hitman, though. But this is something that we see. There's a great book called The Modern Mercenary, and there's a phenomenon that they call neo-medievalism, because one of the problems during the Middle Ages was that people had an allegiance to their lord, their god, and their king. So whenever there was like a conflict broke out that was between any of them, you had to pick your own, you had to pick which master you would serve. So, mercenaries have different interests, different loyalties and all of that. So obviously we might be saying, if this is true, that neo-medieval order, like establishing itself once again in our modern society. So they're they obviously aren't loyal to Russia.
No.
He says, quote, "There are 25,000 of us, and we are going to figure out why chaos is happening in the country." Promising to tackle any checkpoints. He said, I asked that no one offer resistance. Is 25,000 really enough to do anything? I mean, if they're centralized just in Moscow, yes, like they could take some building or something. But I just want to point out that we're no longer in the era of being able to take over a country by occupying a building. And it's kind of crazy to think that was the case at some point. Like a bunch of dudes would run into a building and they were like, we're in charge now. And everyone would be like, well, crap, they're in charge now.
Yeah, worked in Pinochet did that, I think, with what was Salvador Allende in Chile. There was, and that was in the 70s, I think.
It's like
they just went in, but once you get the leader, that's what he wants. Is he wants the defense minister? If this is real,
right.
He doesn't care about the building.
Yeah,
but
but
if you can get the people, if you get Putin, then you get Putin at gunpoint to tell the people, I concede, I step down. You get the leader to do what you want them to do. I think.
But well, power is influence, right? So symbols of power do matter. So occupying Moscow, even though strategically you're right, like they could move to another city. The Russian government has access to nuclear warheads. You would think this doesn't matter, but symbolically occupying Moscow is a huge deal. And if people believe that this mercenary group is more powerful than the defense minister, guess what? It's more powerful than the defense minister.
Has anybody ever occupied Moscow?
Since the beginning, since the Kiev, the old Kievan princes.
Yeah, Kiev was the original capital, I think.
Right? Every empire died trying, but like,
Well, that was
has
the
anyone
Wagner
ever
group.
Right? Like,
This is it. The U.S. finally figured something out. They were like, hold on. We can't invade. Let's pay someone else to do it. There you go.
Oh, the French occupied Moscow.
We didn't just
apparently.
figure that out. I think America's been doing that for a long
Moscow
time.
has been occupied 6 times in its history by foreign armies.
Wow.
The Polish in 1610. Do you want me to tell?
When was France?
France. When was France? French occupation 1812. Napoleon made it to Moscow. I didn't realize that.
I thought that dude was crazy. Napoleon.
The summit of the French.
But then what did he try? He tried going further?
He lost his army on the way.
They only occupied it for 36 days. The city was devastated by fire. This is all from Wikipedia. And I'm just kind of...
Oh, yeah. It wasn't like they destroyed everything. The Russians, Napoleon wouldn't have any supplies, and then he got screwed over in the winter and was like, we're dying.
Scorched earth policy. As you retreat, you burn everything so that the enemy doesn't have anything.
Is that scorched earth? I thought was when you destroy everything so that they cannot raise a defense. Like you destroy farmland and kill civilians.
You could be right.
Because Sherman's March to the Sea, I think, was the first modern example of scorched earth. Whereas he marched south, he just started destroying farms and killing civilians and just wiping them all out.
You could be right.
The Romans did it to Carthage. When
But
they
there is
city.
there is a tactic where as you're being occupied, you destroy everything. Didn't they do that with Richmond? The South, they sacked Richmond to prevent the Union from being able to utilize it or something like that. I don't know.
That is common. It's a very common. And when you're desperate, to burn your defenses as you retreat, so that the enemy's not able to occupy.
I mean, they're doing that in Ukraine. Who do you think blew up that giant dam, the Nova Dam? It wasn't the Russians.
Well, this is the funny thing. Like Nord Stream, for instance, they're like Russia blew up its own pipeline, and you're like,
no,
why?
Like, no, no. Ukraine blew up the dam.
This is not definitive though. This is like you've got warring propaganda.
So the New York Times did a report on how Ukraine has sort of poison pills all throughout the country to blow up their own infrastructure, and the Washington Post said that they did a test strike on the dam earlier in the year. They did an operation to test. So you can just connect the dots there.
Yeah, and I think the blowing of the dam flooded, or has potential to flood Crimea, the Crimean Peninsula.
That's right. It really hurts the Russians to blow up the dam.
And it's always
a very bad thing.
Who benefits from this? So the pipeline that was destroyed is the one that allows them to transport oil and gas without going through Ukraine. So obviously that gives them the ability to cut off the Ukrainians from energy. So that would be a prime target for the Ukrainians to destroy, or their allies being the United States or whoever. Like, it wouldn't make sense for Russia to cut off their own strategy.
This is it's a good
and they're winning too, aren't they?
It's all propaganda. It's tough to tell.
But here's what I noticed. They've been saying Western media's been saying Russia's been losing the whole time. And then I keep looking at these maps of territory, and Russia's expanding its control over the Donbass, and I'm like, I'm confused. Like, now they're saying that this region where the dam is controlled by Russia, and I'm like, wow, Russia controls how much? I thought they were losing. I thought they were getting pushed back. I thought there was this big offensive that pushed back into Russia. But Russia controls all this land? I was like, it doesn't sound like they're losing. I mean, I'm not here to say they're winning or anything, but it doesn't sound like they're losing.
Dude,
I don't know, though. I don't know. There's a lot of propaganda.
This will be, if this truly is that the Russians accidentally shelled 2,000 of their own mercenaries, and now the mercenaries turn on them, that will be remembered for tens of thousands of years if we have history for that, if we can maintain it. It'll be remembered as one of the largest military blunders ever in the history of humankind.
I just don't believe it.
Yeah, it's a
for that
convenient piece of propaganda.
Exactly. And it's much simpler that a multi-billionaire went to the Wagner Group and said, we will give you $100 billion to your company. You will be the preeminent in the Eastern Hemisphere military contractor for all of our work forever. you will want for nothing, side with us. It's a simple question. You go to the guy and you say, do you think Russia's going to win? And he's going to be like, is it really worth how much money he's paying you? Well, this is what we do. It's like, we'll pay you 10 times as much and you'll win. And he goes, deal. That simple.
We did just have a $6.2 billion accounting error.
Maybe that's where it went.
That's where it went.
No joke. Maybe.
Yeah.
Whoops. And now the guy's got $6 billion.
I
And
hate
he's
it when
probably
that
like,
happens.
dude, he makes a video claiming whatever he wants. How much money they have to give him to make it happen? Probably not a lot. He's a private military contractor. He runs a business. If he works with Russia and Russia ends up succeeding or pushing in this fight, his only customer is going to be Russia. He's looking right now. They're probably telling him, listen, once this whole thing dies down, you've got potential conflict in country A, country B, country C, country D. You've got China, Taiwan. You've got, the entire continent of Africa and South America. We can hire you for all of these things. But if you operate with Russia, that's the only customer you will ever have.
Yes.
And what are you going to buy? After, they may have even gone to him and said, after we flatten Russia, where will you live? Will you, with all of the great money they paid you, will you buy a building in Siberia perhaps? Or how about this? We give you $1 billion. You turn on Russia and you can buy property anywhere in the world. Heck, we'll give you an island. Not a hard deal. And that's the danger of using mercenaries.
There's an island called Little St. James that is recently unoccupied, and it has a special temple on it that's nearly brand new, lightly used. Special blue and white temple. Those are your colors, right, Wagner? Blue and white? You'll love this place. It's got a real Eastern European flair to it. Yeah, this is the I think you might. Obviously, I think you might be right here. I'm furiously searching for the map, the wartime map, because actually Russia's gained an enormous amount of territory of Ukraine's, and this Ukrainian offensive that they've been talking about has done nothing. It's actually been an absolute total failure. You don't hear about it because we're propagandized as much as anyone else in the world. But the Ukrainian spring offensive has been very, very bad, and as you can see, where all the money has gone. It's now in flaming tanks and personnel carriers all throughout the eastern front of Ukraine. And the most effective group, if you go through on the YouTube and some of the YouTube channels, and you're able to do the Google Translate thing, and you're able to listen to these Ukrainian generals talk, the people they're actually scared about is the Wagner group. That's the people they talk about. They say the Russian army is ineffective. It's this Wagner group. These guys are actual operators. They are sophisticated, they're smart, and they also have a wartime experience. So they're not rattled at all because Russia's putting a lot of young guys on the front lines. And so if you go through and you watch some of these YouTube, the Kiev post is the one that I watch, right? Because they have these insight and these interviews with these Ukrainian generals, and they talk about how worried they are about the Wagner group and how skilled of an operation that is. And so this is clearly something that is, if you were to take them off the chessboard, well, hot damn. I mean, this would be a big thing, obviously, for Ukraine.
I always thought about mercenaries and what a hard life that is, because the people that hire you to fight want you to die in the battle that they win. They want you to win the battle but die so they don't have to pay you. Yeah. So it's like Russia doesn't care about these people. Like the Russians, they want to win and they would rather not pay them, to be honest. Obviously, they would like loyalty over non-loyalty, but mercenaries know that. And if you kill their men, man, they are not going to wait.
We don't do very well with taking care of the people who fight our wars either, though. So It's not like that's. I mean, I see what you're saying, but in general, I don't really think that in most cases, many of the people that come back from war are really taken care of in any way, shape, or form. So,
but veterans make up 11% of all the homeless population in America. Veterans make up 11%.
Large portion of the suicides.
Our veterans,
But we do use mercenaries in part because the soldier death number is what always gets reported, because the American people care about soldiers dying overseas. And when it's personnel, even though they're former soldiers that served our country that went into these mercenary groups, it's not as scary of a number. So there is some more concern in the United States for at least the death toll, especially overseas.
And we started upping our use of private military after we started withdrawing troops at a certain point, right? Back in 2013 or something like that.
In Afghanistan?
Yeah.
So just to clarify, because people are pointing out scorched earth, two super chats saying that it's when people are when a defending army destroys everything. Another person responded, it's actually both. But most famously associated with offending armies destroying anything of use to the place they're occupying, but there are several circumstances in which people in their own countries destroyed everything as they were fleeing. But scorched earth, the specific examples when you pull up, Sherman's March to the Sea is like the most notable modern example. Yeah. And that was when he was like, destroy the farms, destroy the railroads, anything they can use. The purpose was to destroy their will to fight. So just to completely demoralize.
I thought about the
Third Reich did this in Russia. Like when they were on the edge of Moscow as far as the Third Reich got in Russia, and they were as close as any modern army's been to conquering Moscow, and man, they burned they burned everything on their way back.
But we gotta talk about a more important fight that may be on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not Ukraine and Russia. It is Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Vox.com reporting, why in the world are Elon and Zuck planning to punch each other? Their supposed cage match has petty online roots. I'm all for it as the boys are fighting. Okay, I love this. They are 51 and 39 years old, respectively. And we regret to inform you that they're gearing up for a cage fight in an unconfirmed location, but possibly Las Vegas, on a to-be-decided date. Elon Musk signaled his interest in the match on Twitter a few days ago. Zuckerberg naturally confirmed that he was in through Instagram. So what's the latest on this? This is going to happen, or
what?
The
latest is Dana White came out and acknowledged this is real.
Yeah, they said they're very serious about it. Like they want to do it.
This is the coolest thing Zuckerberg has ever done.
They're saying the weight classes, like the different weight classes, will make it difficult for them. I think this is why they should go to Mars. They should have this fight on Mars.
Low gravity.
That's still a weight class.
That's it. It's nice. Like, but the other thing is like Elon's mom was saying she doesn't want him to do it.
May Musk.
I put a poll up on our chat today. I asked people. I said, who do you think would win? And I think they're wrong. I think people are saying Musk is going to win, and I think if you've seen the videos of Zuckerberg doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, he looks like a robot when he's doing it. His face is completely blank. I think he ends up winning this one.
So, I just want to say this first. The first question is, will this actually happen? And I lean towards it won't. I hope it does.
Can you imagine the insurance policy you'd have to run this fight?
There's a 37-second video of Dana White.
This is a good point why it won't happen. Because every investor in Facebook and every investor in Tesla will file an injunction immediately and be like, if one of you gets knocked out, we're going to lose billions of dollars.
You know, that's a good point. Because Dana White, the owner of the UFC, said that it would raise $100 million in pay-per-view and it would be the biggest, most popular fight of all time.
Yep.
But you're right. A head trauma to Elon Musk could end Tesla. Yeah.
And then they're just like, you make one bad decision and your board votes you out. They're like, we saw you get hit in the head by Zuckerberg. Like, we can't trust you to make decisions
anymore. And Musk
anymore.
is 51.
Yeah.
And Zuckerberg's I don't know how trained, but a trained jiu-jitsu fighter.
All right, so let's talk about this, though. Zuckerberg does jiu-jitsu. He does. There's that video that went viral where he claimed, the ref claimed that he tapped out, but he didn't, and Zucker got all mad about it. Elon Musk is just a guy. However, Elon Musk is also much, much, much larger than Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg's actually a little dude. Also, like 5'8" or something?
Do they get to
5'7"?
154.
150. And what's Musk?
6'1", 6'2". And 195, which I think is kind of conservative for his weight. He looks pretty big.
There's no way he's 190.
That's what he's listed as minimum. So
what?
Yeah,
no.
I think he's more. I think he's more. I'm saying it's a minimum.
I'm 190.
His height is 6'1", 6'2".
Right, for that height alone with his build, he's looking at 210, 220.
Probably.
So my executive producer just went to Twitter and met with Elon. ALX, he's been on the show. Everyone knows ALX.
Great guy. Awesome guy.
Great dude. Follow him on Twitter. Blew past 500,000. And also, by the way, Benny Brigade, thank you for 1 million subs this week. We just crossed that milestone on Wednesday. So God bless you. Thank you. ALX has been my executive producer for 5 years. Met with Elon Musk. And he's like, yo, I'm 5'2". ALX is, I'm sorry, 6'2". ALX is every bit of a tall dude. All right. And Elon Musk was taller than him.
Wow.
Elon Musk was a big guy. ALX tweeted, he's like, Elon Musk was way bigger than I thought he'd be in person.
Have you seen the photos of him on the boat with Bezos? He's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
Also, the other thing for Musk is like, I just don't know if like can they find the time to do something like this? Is there really time to get something like this done when you're running 5 companies?
I think so, because they're both robots, and they know that
they don't sleep.
Time is relative. So when you create a piece of art that goes on the internet that is seen 100 million times, it creates, like when you think of time, you're creating 100 billion minutes, as opposed to spending maybe 7,000 minutes to get it done. you've actually made more time.
More importantly, if they can find the time to do this, is Elon going to make the time to train? Because Zuckerberg has a head start, and he's younger than him, and he is fighting right now, and he's training with the best. He's a billionaire, like he can afford anybody. So can Elon, but Elon's older.
Andrew Tate says, "I'll train you." Jorge Masvidal says, "I'll train you." Elon Musk. There's been a bunch of MMA fighters that are like, "F Zuck, I will train you."
Sam Hyde. He's the guy. No, I think Andrew Tate, if he goes to Romania and trains with Andrew Tate, that would be hardcore, because even that would be awesome to watch.
We live in such a weird world where it's like you just kind of accept that this dude who might or might not be a human trafficker is going to train the guy who runs 5 of the biggest companies in the world to fight another dude who's worth more than some small country's GDP. And you're just like, whatever. Like back in the day, this would have happened on Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yes.
No more.
Yeah.
No
the simulation is broken.
Yeah. Like
the
you just
simulation
do it
is broken. Take the cartridge out, blow on it, put it back in. Let's reset the game.
You just accept that, like, is this dude who's maybe guilty of unspeakable crimes really possibly going to train this dude who's now got people mad at him because he won't let them say cis on Twitter? It's a weird world we live in.
Do you think it's a good idea for them to fight?
I mean, yeah, because I think I'm all for the hilarity of it all. I think it's hilarious. But like, I mean, if I was an investor in either of these companies, I don't know if I want the guy, especially Musk, who's like the brainchild of those companies. Facebook is kind of its own thing now, right? I think Facebook does fine if Zuckerberg isn't around anymore. Musk is very much a forward-facing persona that is the face of those companies. You can't have that dude coming out here looking like Reagan in his second administration and like looking like he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Like he has to be coherent. He has to know what he's talking about, and he has to look like he's on this game all the time.
Two things. One, first of all, Elon Musk smoked with Joe Rogan, and Tesla stock plunged immediately. So this would have an impact if he got knocked out.
Great time to buy.
Something to be worried about. And number two, are you guys a little bit worried that Bezos is getting into shape? Zuckerberg's doing MMA. They know something we don't know. Like they're trying to go to.
They know something most people don't know, and it's you got to eat right, take care of yourself. That's just it.
That's right.
Do you think they're preparing for something where they might have to engage in mortal physical combat, like societal collapse?
No.
Bezos is in shape because he's got his new wife who's going to take his other half of his money.
I think if you take a look around, you'll notice a few things. People are drinking a lot less. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've noticed that anecdotally because we do this great booze selection, and people come in and we hear this all the time. Oh, I stopped drinking recently. Mm-hmm. We also know that millennials drink a ridiculously lower amount of soda than past generations.
Yeah, it's the first time in American history that soda is not like the number one drink in America. Yeah,
I mean, I hate it. We have these liquid deaths where the total sugar count is 6 grams.
I've actually
in this whole can.
I've gone to kombucha. It's not expensive. You get a lot of it. It's like a sweet tea, fermented
no
sweet
sugar.
Tea.
It says
I think they sweeten it with an alcohol sugar.
But this is my point. When it comes to all of these guys, we see them; they're very visible. But the reality is, the trend in getting healthier is just across the board.
Well, the wealthy do eat better than us. Like,
COVID freaked me out. I'm fully focused on physical health.
Tell that to Bill Gates, though. Bill Gates.
Ian has a filet mignon every day. Every day, a nice Wagyu beef.
Yes. Raw.
Yeah, raw.
It's just kidding. It's good to have your heroes and the people that you look up to in society be masculine men. If you're a man, it's good to have testosterone flowing through your veins. Mr. Beast tweeted recently that he's getting in shape and that he called himself obese and that he's been training every single day and eating right and stopping drinking. And I think this is a wonderful example to set for young men, actually. You shouldn't want to be a slob filled with microplastics and unable to defend yourself or support your family. In my case, physically support my family because I need to pick my little kids up and down, or walk up the stairs, right? To literally be a father, you have to be a masculine man. You have to have energy.
If not a cage match for the issue of the stock and potential lawsuits and injunctions, they need to do some kind of like manly sporting competition.
Arm wrestling.
Peeing contest.
Arm wrestling, baby.
They're not going to get hurt. They're not going to get hurt arm wrestling, at least not severely. Don't let him do the slap game, though.
Right? Wear like the helmet thing, but maybe wear like helmets, right, or something. Everyone make fun of them,
but AR visors.
They fight with the giant toothpicks. American Gladiators.
Yeah, bring that back.
That feels very Musk to me. Like there's meme potential in that I think would.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Maybe we do like 5 events. It's like arm wrestling. It's the giant Q-tip thing where they, bop each other with them, and maybe a sock 'em bopper on a bridge where it's like
the log. What about the
big
where you
big
walk
airbags?
So I do want to say this as somebody who was raised in Iowa, that don't count out Zuck because he's shorter or smaller. We've been having this like size comparison. Elon's big man. Like, dude, these short guys, growing up in Iowa, the reason I say that is because it's wrestling country. Everyone's a wrestler.
Yep.
And these little guys who wrestled featherweight, like 120, right? 120 or 110. They're little dudes. And they have those cauliflower ears. They will kick your ass.
That's what I'm
Those guys will cause you more pain. It's like the little guys at the bar with cauliflower ears. You got to stay away from. Those guys will hurt you.
There was I don't know if I'm supposed to tell this story, so I'll just keep it very vague. But someone we know who was a fighter said that he was at a bar once and some guy was mouthing off, and he was like, "Just leave me alone, dude." And then his buddy was like, "Dude, stop!" and pointed to his ears.
Oh yeah, he said that on the show. I was watching that show. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, and it's just like I'm pretty sure like you see that and you're like, it's not that they're a good fighter. It's that they are a fighter and you're not. Don't go in that arena.
That's what it
man.
comes to.
Also, when you're little, like, you always feel like you have something to prove. Never piss off a short cop. Ever in your entire life. It's the worst thing in your entire life because they're quick to anger and they're always going to be trying to prove themselves. Just don't do it.
So if this fight comes to term, I prophesy Zuckerberg goes for. There's going to be some weak strikes. Zuckerberg goes for the legs, wraps him up really fast, puts him in some pain that he wasn't expecting, and Musk is out. That's my.
Then the undercard can be all of the people that work for their companies, like their vice presidents fight, and I love it. I love it. Just,
You know, it would be even better though, if they're in the middle of their fight, all of a sudden there's like a sound or a horn trumpet, and then they look up in the rafters and there's Jack Dorsey, and then he like ropes down and he lands.
Yes.
like Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania.
exactly.
Let's go.
That's right. And then you
Exactly.
start hearing this like glitchy house music, and Elon Musk calls in a Tesla bot and comes and takes his place, taps in,
Just
and
do
it's
it.
like an AI versus Zuck,
yeah.
and then Zuck rips his human exoskeleton off his face, and he's like, "Lizard people!" They fight, right? AI versus the lizard people. They finally have the battle we've all been waiting for.
Somebody could just make this movie now. We don't need this to actually happen. We
and
could
Joe
do
Rogan's
this.
calling it, right?
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's there, like
Hold
calling it.
on. Can we just go back to reality for 1 second? Joe Rogan will be
Calling the
fight. How insane! So when we saw that story where it was Trump's in the audience with like what was like Kid Rock and like who else was there?
Mike Tyson.
And I'm just like, what's this?
Dana White.
Dana White, Donald Trump, Kid Rock, Mike Tyson, and Joe Rogan's in there. Calling the fight, I'm like, this is the weirdest. We live in a simulation. They just tell me. I'm sorry. That's just it.
Rogan, we got to give some credit to Joe Rogan. This guy, people love him, obviously, but like he brought people together, humans together across so many strata of reality. Like
Seriously.
it is so awesome to watch doctors hang out with fighters. Sorry, Benny, were you about to say something?
Everyone's saying that Donald Trump needs to be the ref.
Oh, that'd be hot. Get him a nice pin black and white striped shirt. I have so much love for Rogan, not only just because of what he's doing with the show, but the grand macro scheme of how he's been able to bring people together.
I think I'd rather have Trump do announcing with Rogan.
Oh yeah.
I think he would be better off in the announce booth.
Like as the color commentator.
Yeah, like
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. It's like it's tremendous.
Dirty Trump would be biased against Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
In the fight.
That's funnier. It's funnier if he has like clear favorites that he's picking.
Oh, he's
like,
gonna run all his grievances against both of them. He's like, this guy begged me for support during this. Now he's gonna submit to.
So the real question we need to ask is like, how do we make something like this actually happen? Even if it was WWE style, where it's all fake and silly and over the top, would be the best thing ever.
That was my pitch. It's like
Maybe
they
even
should just
better.
have WWE do it because you could actually write storylines for these people, and it would be really, really funny to watch the writers come up with something absolutely ridiculous.
Man,
I'm here for it.
Bezos like shows up and then it's like battle royale and they're all just in the ring.
Yeah.
Bezos comes in and helps Zuckerberg, and then Dorsey comes in and helps Elon. Because he's like, yeah, you're my Twitter brother in arms. You bought it from me, and they become the Twitter tag team bros.
Didn't see that one
Like,
coming.
let's do this. This is the It is a simulation,
And
right? Like,
Jack Dorsey's wearing Twitter 1.0 and Elon's wearing Twitter 2.0 shirt.
Suddenly, like the lights go out in the entire arena, and you hear I don't know, some type of Latin music from the Amazon, and in comes an Amazon drone with an Amazon box, and in the box is Jeff Bezos. He bursts forth. He bursts out of it,
No,
right?
he comes in an Amazon truck. They back up an Amazon truck,
and a
ring.
guy's got a dolly with a box that he carts into the cage, and they're like, "What's this?" Then he puts it down, and then all of a sudden it just bursts open, and
And there's precedent for this because Stone Cold Steve Austin.
And he's like, "I'm in my prime."
Stone Cold Steve Austin once drove a beer truck to the ring
chest.
and jumped on Vince McMahon. We can have Bezos drive an Amazon truck to the ring and just jump on top of both of them. This is perfect. Let's do this.
I want to see like them bust like Elon pick up Zuck and like smash him through the ground, and as he falls down, lands on like the next scene, which is they're fighting on a starship.
And then
can we make that happen?
The Babylon Bee had a meme today that said like Zuckerberg and Elon solved their differences by playing GoldenEye 64, only slapping each other in two-player mode.
Yeah, but you got to play on License to Kill mode where one hit kills if you're going to do that.
slap
It's
suddenly,
awesome.
and then you're like going like this back and forth, like not trying to
One of them takes Blofeld because he's smaller, so they can't actually slap him.
Oh, Odd Job.
Odd job. Sorry. Yeah.
What did you say?
Blofeld.
Who's that?
That's another character.
Oh, really? No, Odd Job is the short one, and we always had the no Odd Job rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, you
Like,
can't
no,
Jaws sucked too.
And what do he threw his hat at people?
The best,
Who would be
best
the
move in
one
game.
person that like unites them all, right? Because that's the thing you need. If you're writing the WWE script, somebody has to show up that unite. Then they have to join forces, right? Like the Power Rangers. Is it
I don't know.
TikTok?
Logan-
Like is
No,
it
I
the
don't-
Communist Party? Like
I don't
who
know if
is it?
anyone's opposed to the oligarchs. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're the.
You have to be like Logan Paul.
But Xi Jinping would be the best heel.
Xi Jinping would be an amazing
Like
heel.
the evil,
Yep.
the bad owner. He'd love it too.
That's right. The sweatshops in the background.
WWE
Yep.
always did the evil foreigner stereotype in all of them. I mean, what's
right.
his name? The Iron Sheik just passed away, so Xi Jinping would have to take over for the
He
Iron Sheik.
doesn't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
He just kind of stand there and like
Looks
chill and
evil.
smile a little bit, and you're like, do I trust him or not? I don't know.
Put him in a Winnie the Pooh outfit.
Yeah. Oh,
Let's
geez.
we're going to completely jump off the cliff on this story and just move on to politics. We have this one from Fox News. Karine Jean-Pierre spars with reporters, refuses to answer Hunter Biden questions in testy exchanges. I thought it was interesting because the way it was described to me is that the press corps has completely turned on the Biden administration. I mean, Ian and Benny were both like, it was bad.
Dude, we should watch at least part of the 4-minute video of the reporters, one after the other, picking up where the other one left off. Karine be like, I'm not answering that question. What do you want? And they're like, well, I just want to continue with their question. She's like, I'm not answering it. Okay, you. And he's like, I want to continue with the old reporter's question. It was stunning.
But you were saying, Benny, that they're done with them, and they're getting pushed out because there's the Hunter Biden story, and then there was more importantly the OceanGate scandal, where apparently the government knew for a week that this sub had likely imploded, and they didn't tell anybody.
This is our federal government's version of Order 66. Joe Biden's getting Order 66 right now. If you see it, you'll never be able to unsee it. Follow some of the New York Times writers. Follow some of the Washington Post writers. Follow Chuck Todd. We have to do it professionally. I would never recommend you do these things because you'll never get anything useful. What you'll see is the order has gone out. You are now allowed to attack. You are now allowed to ask your question. Why does Chuck Todd, after 3 years, Chuck Todd finally finds this story interesting and he leads NBC Nightly News with a 7-minute episode on this? CNN's reporter at the White House was the one who's the most savage in this video that we're going to watch, hopefully, to Karine Jean-Pierre. Oh, yeah. CNN, New York Times, NBC News, they're all ganging up on Biden. Nah, man. Order 66 went out.
Let's play this clip. Here we go. Oh, it's not working. What's going on?
Dinner last night. I'm wondering if you could take us into the thinking and the decision-making of why...
CNN asking this question.
I'm just not going to get into family discussion, personal family discussion. As you know, Hunter is his son. I'm just not going to get into
Let me
it.
ask you this. If Hunter Biden wasn't the president's son, would he have invited someone who had just reached a plea agreement with federal prosecutors 2 days earlier?
A couple of things. Again, that's his son. He's a family member. It is not uncommon for family members to attend events at the White House. We could look at past presidents. I'm sure you have. So that is not
Let's jump
uncommon.
ahead.
So here's the thing, I appreciate
The United States was involved, as this message seems to suggest, in some sort of a coercive conversation for business dealings by a son. Is that something?
So they were referring to this text that went out where Hunter was basically like, I'm sitting here with the big guy right now and we'll put all our force against you unless you do it.
He says, I'm sitting here with my father. And he
Right.
says it twice in the text.
Multiple times, yeah.
It's a WhatsApp text, and it has not been refuted. This text seems legitimate.
So
His lawyer responded to the text. today, confirming Hunter Biden's lawyer responded to the text, confirming that it was a legitimate text, that the text is real to the communist Chinese apparatchik.
Wow.
And what was the defense? Oh, my client was on drugs at the time.
Sitting next to
I
his
just
father.
want to point this out.
I kid you not.
So this morning we did the first of our new. So the idea for the Culture War show was always to be like having the debates that we sometimes have on IRL, but don't fit the format. We do topical news here. Having someone on who's going to debate turns into a debate show. So Friday morning will be. We had on Emma Vigeland, and one of the conversations we had was me saying, I don't quite understand why there are so many people on the left who don't like Joe Biden, but will absolutely defend him on these scandals instead of just saying, sure. And for some reason, we got into the argument. And this individual, she was very much like, I don't think it's real. The Burisma stuff's not true. You know, there's no evidence to prove it. Shokin was not investigating Zlochevsky, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, he was like, I don't understand. But now I'm wondering if they're going to change tune, these lefty types, now that we're seeing the signal flare has gone up. It is now open season to go after Joe Biden on this corruption scandal.
I think so. This is one of the most jaw-dropping pieces of news media I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it is incredible. Anyone that cares or has been following the Hunter Biden scandal, the stuff with Burisma, anyone over the last 3 to 4 years, watch this video. Watch it from start to finish. You're going to want more when it ends. I don't know if they only got 3.5 out of her, but I mean, this is a tactic that can be continued to be used by the news media until, forbid,
they were
stop.
supposed to. It's
You're
like
right.
they're supposed to ask about these stories, but this is the point I was bringing up in the debate show. I'm like, how about if you don't know whether or not Joe Biden did or did not engage in a quid pro quo, you just say, yeah, I don't know enough about that, but I don't like Biden, so I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. How about you just say, I'm not going to comment. For some reason, there's this adamant need among these left personalities. Like, I'm not talking about liberals either, like leftists will be like, I don't like Joe Biden, I won't defend him, but this story is not true. And I'm like, you don't know anything about the story. Why are you defending him? This is what we see. It is the establishment narrative line. It is you are not approved. The New York Times can come out. How about this? Politico magazine can come out and outright be like, the Biden family fortune has tracked perfectly alongside Biden's career in government. His brother getting contracts to do construction in Iraq, things like this. Politico made a timeline of it. And then they come out and say, never happened. And I'm like, I just don't understand this need to be like, no, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Biden's perfect. Now, all of a sudden, with the corporate narrative shifting, probably because they don't want Biden for 2024, now I'm wondering if we'll see these left personalities be like, we never liked Biden. What are you talking about?
That's exactly what's going to end up happening,
Right.
because they consider the mainstream narrative to be their kind of God in a lot of ways. They don't know how to see things through any other lens because they track anything else as propaganda and anything else as anti-establishment, which gets a label of being like it's against them inherently. You can't ask questions honest. They don't think you're asking your questions honestly. They think you're asking your questions to trap them in something because you have your own agenda rather than the agenda of just wanting to know what the hell is going on.
That's a cult, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because you're evil and you brought it up, and right wingers brought up that Burisma tape thing. So, like, therefore, it has to be invalid. And you know, you've asked 2 people about this on air, and they haven't seen the video, which is fascinating.
Yeah, every time we ask a liberal or left personality about the quid pro quo Joe Biden thing, fire the prosecutor, not going to $1 billion. This I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
I
Or
think-
they
I'm
say
like,
it's RT,
what?
it's RT, so it's not reliable.
But that was just a clip from the CFR. It was like,
No, it was C-SPAN.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's bragging about it.
But if you want to see that clip now, isn't that on like RT?
You can find
that's
it.
on Twitter.
Yeah.
The behavior isn't necessarily solely on the left. But it's a reactionary behavior,
Yeah.
and you can get it from people that are either. I think it kind of comes from fear. I mean, that's a vague term, but like people that are afraid to be trapped. I think for sure.
I think that's a big part of it. It's like people like you, they feel like you're about to lead them into a corner where they don't have enough information. And so their inherent reaction is to just lash out. Plus, they've had a lot of things held from them for the last 2 years, 3 years, after all the social media networks made sure you didn't know what was going on with Hunter Biden, made sure you didn't know what was going on with Burisma. I know plenty of people who just don't even know what that is, who don't know anything that's going on there.
It's because, but for a public figure or an online figure, agreeing with somebody on the right or the people who shared that Burisma video is worse than the hypocrisy, because who's going to call them out on the hypocrisy? Only people that they perceive to be more on the right than them.
That's a cult.
So, like, they don't see this clip. Like, again, people, prominent news, cover headline news and politics on a daily basis, come on and they say, I've never seen that clip. You had the show with Hunter where he said that clip doesn't exist, and then you
He actually,
it.
Smart was like, that never happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me pull the clip up for you, and you can watch it happen. Like, I don't understand. And he didn't know.
And
like,
for
people
him,
just don't know.
that might be fair because he does more cultural stuff and he admits that. But like
this-
for her,
that-
she does presidential politics on a daily basis, and she's like, I've never watched the clip.
It's a question of why Hunter said that never happened, instead of just being like, I'm not familiar with that, but I'm not going to defend Joe Biden.
Yes,
Yeah, I
do
just don't
not
understand
fall
that.
into
This
that
actually,
trap.
oh man, this just happened. Keith Olbermann saying that Hillary Clinton never smashed her cell phones. He just got destroyed. Nancy Mace tweeted,
Yeah.
Nancy Mace, this just happened online for all of us to see, and he got community noted into the Sun on Twitter. Nancy Mace goes, well, it's a tweet, and
Right.
please feel free, because it's awesome. It's the best community note ever.
He's like, that didn't happen, right?
Yeah, Nancy Mace is like, Donald Trump gets arrested, right? Classified document thing. Nancy Mace is like, yo, Hillary deleted all these emails and then smashed all of her phones with a hammer. And Keith Olbermann says, that never happened. Duh. And then
That's just lying. That's literally
when
just
did he
that's,
tweet it? Like a couple days ago or what?
It was about
Yeah.
a week. It was at least a week ago now. Like that. The
Yeah.
thing is about that is that's just bad faith. They're doing that because they know that they have large audiences, and there's no way they're going to agree to what you said because that tweet then lasts forever. So they're just lying because it's beneficial to them.
But
So
there's
then he got community noted through the stratosphere with all these links, including a CNN fact check, which is the greatest CNN fact check to ever air on any. Probably the best 60 seconds to ever air on any cable news ever, where CNN had to get fact checked on air that Hillary Clinton did in fact smash all of her devices with a hammer
That was a
from
long
their
time ago,
Supreme
too.
Court reporter. It was
Are they-
great. It was
what's-
Boris Epstein. It's classic.
Have you seen the fact check from one of these websites on that specifically? It's that Hillary Clinton destroyed her devices, and they were destroyed with a hammer, but she had a staffer do it. Therefore, it's like mostly false.
Right.
It also
That's
like
insane.
She didn't acid wash.
She didn't acid wash it. It's like the weasel words are almost unfathomable.
It's like when you make a claim, you better be the most specific as humanly possible. Otherwise, you're a liar. But they can make any general claim, and then it's like, well, it's obviously true about you, though. Like especially if they're accusing you of something.
You're right about specific. It is so important in this age of if you think we're in a culture war that you use the right words, that you are very specific.
And then Hillary Clinton, no, I'm sorry, a Hillary Clinton staffer then took a hammer. It was a this ounce hammer, and they smashed it on the ground. You have to literally say the exact thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to use that because they know they don't care if people read the fact check. They just want people to see that there's
The
a fact
false.
check on it. False. Partially false.
or mostly.
So this is a really good. So I pulled the tweet up. Nancy Mace, Hillary Clinton used a hammer to destroy evidence. She did, but you can argue the semantics of it wasn't her personally. But she used BleachBit, which is an open source software to purge a hard drive, make it unrecoverable. And then her staff used hammers to destroy the phone devices. He responds, that didn't happen, right? Are you okay? You seem to have been hallucinating a lot lately. Of course, he's
just
fact-checked then by CNN, Business Insider, and Snopes, proving Hillary Clinton did in fact have her phones destroyed by a hammer. So this is the crazy thing. I don't know if they're lying or that they're just... Is the problem stupid people on the internet are tribal and will attract followers and continue to say stupid things, and then we're just arguing with brick walls?
I used to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't give them the benefit of the doubt anymore.
I think it's both.
Very rarely do I give them the benefit of the doubt that I think that he just didn't know that. I think that a lot of them are just acting in bad faith.
Because semantics do matter, right? He says it didn't happen. Like he says everything you're saying is false. It's wrong. Not that your words are somehow incorrect or Hillary didn't do it personally. He's saying everything you're saying is a lie, which is really important. The way that Olbermann
But
says.
she said Hillary Clinton did it, and that's not true. Her staffer did it, and that's stupid.
That's incorrect. It's if you were going to, if I claimed definitively as a statement of fact, Hillary Clinton used a hammer to destroy evidence in a private email server as a hard statement of fact, that's action proof, like judgment proof. That is a fact statement that is true and provably true. Now, if I were to say Hillary Clinton grabbed a hammer in her bare hands and in a blinding rage shattered those phones, that would not be true. Hillary Clinton did use a hammer to destroy the devices. She had her staffers take a hammer and use the hammer to do it. So it's a question of, when it comes to statements of fact, whether it's defamation or not, what Nancy Mace said is a true statement. You might argue, well, you should clarify Hillary Clinton had staff members destroy phones with a hammer, and that's probably a better way to phrase it. I don't think Nancy Mace was like, how do I articulate this perfectly? I think she was like, Hillary Clinton used a hammer to do this because she did. Just if it does imply that Hillary personally did it, I think clarification is fine. Keith Olbermann is either lying or just, this is the problem. Keith Olbermann clearly is either lying, which I think we all would agree may be the case, or he's really, really dumb and arrogant. Now it's possible he is both dumb, arrogant, and lying.
The point of semantic arguments is to obfuscate the point of the discussion. It's to get you distracted, and now you're no longer talking about what the actual consequences of the emails are. The point of it is to talk about, now we're talking about, that's very,
I'm waving at shame.
It's no longer, so now you're no longer talking about why she destroyed the emails, why she destroyed any of this, why she deleted all these things. Now you're talking about the semantics of the argument, and then you don't even get to the actual debate about what happened. Yeah. And that's basically social media in a nutshell.
And they would do anything in order to say it's mostly false or partially false. So if you said she destroyed her Blackberries and one of the 7 devices was a Nokia, they would be like, you liar.
Who was the guy with the Nokia? Yeah. That's the real question. Who was the guy with the Nokia?
And they use the red and green color too.
This is what Snopes does. You will come out and say, Hillary Clinton had her phone smashed with a hammer. Snopes won't take that statement because that statement is yes or no. They will make up their own question. Did Hillary Clinton smash her phone with a hammer? We're not saying that. We're saying that she had it done. Mm-hmm. They've reframed the question so they can then say mixture. Well, Hillary Clinton did not personally destroy. What I love what they do is the headline question, the game is one they do. There's also the false qualifier statement they'll do. Donald Trump will do a backflip off the balcony of the White House and land in a superhero pose. And they'll say, did Donald Trump actually do a backflip off the balcony of the White House into a superhero pose, on Sunday? False, in big letters. They'll then write 500 words about the story and the claims at the bottom and say, well, it is true he did the backflip. It was on Saturday, not Sunday.
Lie by structure.
Exactly.
Making sure that they read.
You got to click the CNN link.
That nobody ever reads to the end of the article.
The CNN one's the famous one where they're like, no, pull that up. This is from a while ago. Let's play it. Is it going to play?
They might have an ad. It might be in there. Oh, no ad.
Why? Because the FBI had an exhaustive year-long investigation. They talked to probably dozens and dozens and dozens of people, hours and hours of testimony, and the decision not to recommend prosecution for her was absolutely unanimous. Was it careless? Yes. Was it a mistake? Yes. As Hillary Clinton said, I should not have done this, and if I ever had to do it again, I'd make a different decision.
But was it criminal? No.
It was not criminal.
So I guess that's the benchmark now to become president, is not to be a criminal in jail.
To be competent.
Let's go through the facts. 17,500 emails that she lied about turning over. The server wipe. Within weeks of there being a report that she had a private server, it was wiped. She thought that C, which stands for classified, stood for cookie or something, which stands for classified. She thought that drone strikes are not classified. She said that the reason she used the private server is for convenience, and that she only had one device. She used 13 Blackberries, let me finish, and 5 iPads. At least she doesn't just stick to either Blackberry or iPad. This is somebody who is absolutely disqualified from becoming president. They destroyed Blackberries with hammers in the State Department. That's not what we won the presidency.
Actually, Evan, hold on. Can you fact check that? Hang on, Evan Perez. Hammers, fact check that for me, please, on the fly.
Yes, they did. As you mentioned, there were 13 devices, mobile devices, and 5 iPads that
she thought she did something
the FBI said that, in some way were used with her private email server, and they did, in some cases, just destroy them with hammers when they were done using them.
Which doesn't do anything to stop to get rid of the data on it. You can easily, you can, I think if I'll be very careful with my words. Even after these things are burned in fires, you can still recover data from them. And it's the smash it with a hammer, absolutely idiotic. So the question then is, why is Olbermann asserting something that is not true? Is it because he's stupid and arrogant, or is he intentionally trying to lie?
I believe that the left has a Munchausen by proxy relationship with their audience, and that they intentionally lie because they know that they're a cult that will only believe what comes out of the glowing box. And they want that cult to be manipulatable. They need that cult to be actionable. And they need them to be the NPC meme, right? Where you just take the chip out of the back of the head and you replace it with Black Lives Matter or the transgender flag or whatever. You need to be programmable. They want programmable people. George Orwell talks about this in 1984. You need these people to be programmable. The value of a loyal servant is what lie will you swallow? The value of the loyal servitude of the left, the Borg, is will you say that 2 + 2 = 5? That's right.
There are 5 lights. You mentioned the Borg, so I had to make it a Star Trek reference.
Yeah, my guess.
The famous story is when Captain Picard's being tortured, there are 4 lights, and he's told to say there are 5, and he refuses. So they keep torturing him but he never does it.
Yesterday, I was pretty down, thinking like, oh, actually, maybe evil triumphs over good usually, and they just tell everyone that they were the good guys. Like, what is this whole? I felt so down and so like hopeless, and then I was like, oh, how easy it would be to just say, yo, go Ukraine, I'm all in, I'm going to get my central bank digital currency. Just let me live in peace. I don't want to think about it. How easy.
Yeah.
Yes. The Borg life is easy.
Yeah.
You sit back. You ever seen Wall-E? You just sit back. You're a slob. You're in your floating chair.
Have you seen that movie, The School for Good and Evil? Mm-mm. So I'm unable to work, so of course I'm just watching whatever's available, and I watched this movie, and it's basically it's like a teenage movie or whatever, where I don't know what the point of the movie was. It was pretty dumb. But the idea is that in the fairy tale world, there's a school that has an evil side and a good side, and they train all the Prince Charmings and they train all the wicked witches. And spoiler alert, I'm going to ruin the story for all of you as to go on to, but you've been warned, spoiler. The actual outcome of the story is the good side was corrupted hundreds of years ago, and they had become vain and vapid and snooty and narcissistic, and they were gloating about how good they were, but they were actually fairly corrupted and evil. And so, that was to your point. I'm like, I just watched this movie, and that was the idea they actually conveyed, that what we think of as good has been corrupted a long time ago, and now it's just vanity.
It's like the Biden administration. You see this all the time.
Virtue signaling.
They just wrap themselves in the American flag. They wrap themselves in democracy. Merrick Garland said it today. He was called on his bullshit today on going to a party last night at the White House with the guy he's supposed to be investigating. 2 guys, Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. He's supposed to be investigating both of them, and Merrick Garland is at a party with them.
So you said earlier.
So Merrick Garland said today, sorry to interrupt you, but I just got to finish. His comment today was, if you attack the Department of Justice, you're attacking our democracy. That's what he said. If you question the Department of Justice, you're attacking our democracy.
Such a lame.
And it's always our democracy.
Evil.
And you were saying
smart people would impeach Merrick Garland and let Joe Biden run.
The reason that the reporters are going haywire now and just turning on Biden is because they feel ashamed about how they were misled about the submersible story. No. Was that an assumption?
That's what I think. I think when you embarrass them and make them look bad personally, they're petty and they get mad at that. And as for the Keith Olbermann thing, remember, he's an anchor actor. He doesn't do what you do, where you do your research and then somebody else puts the things in the prompter. So he might not be, I don't think he's technically stupid, but he might actually not be lying.
Really good point.
Look, I genuinely think that a large component of the culture war divide is intelligence. And we were having this joke about doing a culture war episode where I think Seamus made the joke. He said there's this new podcast where they get a bunch of young girls who have never was that Seamus who said that? Young girls who have never been challenged on anything and then make them look stupid or whatever. And then we were all joking about how we should have like a 56-year-old PhD conservative guy debate like 3 18-year-old.
Doesn't the Whatever podcast already do that?
Yeah, they did recently, actually.
With like a 55-year-old PhD.
Yeah, he was like a doctor, and he was talking to girls, or he was had some credential. It was awesome.
But the joke was that the girls would actually win. Because the guy would be like, when you read this study here, we can see this from, Sorensen et al. They talk about, and they're like, oh, you are so dumb. And then they're going to start being like, don't you think he's stupid? Say it again. Say it, you're dumb. And he's going to be like, well, can you let me finish my point? And they're going to laugh. Then they're going to start calling him names. And then he's going to be like, do you agree that there is a larger percentage of X when it comes to Y? And they're going to be like, you mean like at a pizza shop? And he's like, no, I'm talking about the economics in this country. And I mean, you want to buy pizza? And he's going to be like, I can't do this. It's impossible. These people.
And they'll be like, that's not hot. I'm going to go have babies.
This is the culture war.
Yeah.
This is the culture war. When we sit down with someone, and this is why you don't see liberals come on shows like this. They rarely want to. There's a small handful that do, and they often grift. And then I'm like, this is the problem we run into when we do things like this. When you it's kind of like rehashing the show we did this morning. I know that, but at the same time, when I see Keith Olbermann tweeting this, it brings this up to me that you can't have a conversation with someone you can't argue policy with someone who can't comprehend policy. And that is the culture war today. If you say something like, I think that we need to, I'll give you an example. We were talking about the issue of trans kids. And I said, we have a study that shows desistance is 61 to 95% with no intervention. That would indicate that no intervention is the safest course of action for children. And Emma did not understand that and said, but the doctors say it's good, so we should do it. And if my point is the study we have suggests X and the response is, but the government, I shouldn't say government, but the authority says it's good, you can't convince someone who doesn't understand the math or the science or the argument. It's a brick wall.
I think that's a debate tactic, appeal to authority. It's literally.
I said that over and over and over again.
Appeal to authority, and that's why the school system's so good at it, right? Because they're trained to appeal to authority right from the very beginning, so they're just going to defer to whatever the person in charge says, even if there's data that proves that person in charge to be incorrect.
So a really good example of the challenges we're facing in the culture war from this morning. For those that listen to this show, y'all know that we've actually had this debate quite a bit over what it means to support parental rights. Ron DeSantis passes this bill, the Florida legislature, the parental rights in education. And then we have the conversation of what does it mean to be in favor of parents' rights? What if the parents want the right to have a doctor prescribe a sex change to their child? Well, every conservative immediately says, no, you don't have that right and the government should stop you. Okay, so it's not parental rights. Then on the left, I actually asked Emma, what about the government mandating children get vaccines? She goes, well, yes, I believe in public health. And I'm like, okay, so you're not in favor of parental rights. The saying you're for or against parental rights is a completely meaningless statement because everyone's moral line is going to be completely different. We talk about that quite a bit. She could not grasp that concept. And it's very difficult to have a real conversation with someone who doesn't understand or not even that, but can't actually comprehend basic moral philosophy. So if we're sitting in a room and we're saying, let us break down why we have the policy, should we enact a different policy, and how can we make the lives better for everybody? And they say, duh, I don't understand what you're saying. We can't carry on that conversation.
She called hypotheticals right wing.
Right.
She was like, I'm not going to engage in your right-wing tactic of hypotheticals. It was amazing.
It was wild to hear that.
So, but this is exactly the point. You get a bunch of people, when I was mentioning the conservative PhD guy and a bunch of young girls who are just giggling and laughing and saying you're dumb. There's no conversation to be had. Now here's the real challenge. Those three giggling, dumb, vapid teenage girls have 3 votes to that conservative PhD's 1 vote. And this is what we're dealing with in the culture war. And I bring this up because I'm seeing like the Keith Olbermann thing. When it comes to issues of Burisma, when it comes to issues of Hillary Clinton doing these things, these are not left or right wing things. These are things that are discernibly true that we have questions about. I can sit here and be like, Barack Obama killed Abdulrahman al-Awlaki in a drone strike on a civilian restaurant in Yemen, and he should be criminally charged and prosecuted, and if found guilty, be held accountable for murder of an American citizen. Donald Trump ordered a commando raid in Yemen, which reportedly, according to the family, resulted in the death of an 8-year-old girl, Abdulrahman al-Awlaki's sister. That should be investigated. If it is brought to an investigation, Trump should be charged, same as Obama. However, I think that story might be a bit less credible than the Obama one, which we know for a fact did happen. They've admitted to. I still think both warrant the same legal jurisprudence. I can say those things. But for some reason, when you have a conversation with someone like Keith Olbermann or many of these liberals, they will just be like, the Burisma video never happened. And I'm like, you know you're making that up because we have the video to play. It did happen. And they're saying he was never being investigated. But we know for a fact, and there's a sworn affidavit from Shokin, there were a dozen investigations into Michael Zlochevsky. Instead of actually engaging with you, they'll either be unable to actually comprehend the moral philosophy or the math and science behind what you're arguing, and then they'll just lie.
I think the tribalism nature of it short circuits their brain just a little bit. Like you can't actually go forward when you have a dog in the fight of who wins. So it's like if we're okay with the idea that Obama is prosecuted for war crimes, and you also have to be okay with the idea that Trump would be prosecuted for the same thing if he did indeed do that same thing. But if they have a dog in the fight, if they say, no, I cannot let Barack Obama or Joe Biden or whoever fall because I believe so strongly in the leftist cause, I guess it's not really liberal, it's neoliberal at best. Like, you can't allow new data because you're just not going to believe that that's actually true. You just think they're trying to get one over on you because they believe that you're every bit as tribal as they are.
Sort of, but I do think cognitive incapabilities is a strong is a stronger component of this. A couple examples, when we had Matt Binder on, he kept saying, you think trans people don't exist, which is a nonsense statement that conveys no logical thought other than it's a thing the left says. And when I responded with, they certainly exist. I think trans kids exist. We've had trans people on this show. What are you saying? He didn't have a response because if you're not smart enough to actually understand a position, you'll just say thing. Then we had Lance from the Surf Sun, and he said, you're for forced birth. And I said, what does that mean? And he did not have a response because it's a thing they say. There's no actual substance behind it. It is very much like an NPC in a video game you walk up to and he says, welcome to the inn. And then you can type in whatever you want. How is your day today? And he'll say, the inn sells wares. And they'll never respond to you properly. Like
they never get past the slogan, right? So they hear the slogan repeated enough times on social media. It's almost like your brain bypasses actually putting thought into what that means. So it is kind of like what you're saying. They are just kind of programmed. And I do think there is an aspect of it because like I'm a dummy. I'm a dummy, but I'm also not biased as to I don't really care who's guilty or I care about who's guilty and who's innocent. I don't have a dog in the fight of whether it's Trump, whether it's Obama. I just want it to be. I want the facts.
But everyone in this room right now, and I would say the overwhelming majority of guests we have on the show can understand a concept of A plus B equals C. Yeah. So if I say, here's my position, they go, oh, okay, I understand, but I disagree with you. Whereas these conversations with these lefties is just like blank stare confusion and then nonsense response.
I really think a lot of it more just has to do with the tribal. I think the tribalism short circuits their brain, but also maybe they don't engage in enough healthy debate with people that they generally agree with. People here are going to agree and disagree on various things all the time, right? Like we could have a debate on any topic here tonight. We may fall in line on some things and see eye to eye on other things. We'll see things differently. I don't think that happens to them very much. I think they go with consensus.
So Ben Rhodes did an interview. He was Barack Obama's national security advisor, and Ben Rhodes is the guy who's also found weeping when Hillary Clinton lost in 2016. Do you remember that video? He's actually sobbing out back. Oh, wow. And Ben Rhodes does this really instructive interview about how they were able to get so many lies manufactured and merchandised and laundered in the Obama administration about the Iran deal, about what they were doing in the Middle East, about the drone strikes. And he says, oh, guys, do you know who makes up reporters? You think it's a bunch of Walter Cronkites shuffling around with dandruff on their jackets being like, well, actually, in the Carter era. He's like, no. And I'm paraphrasing Ben Rhodes. He says, it's 27-year-olds. They don't know anything. They've done one campaign gig. That's it. One campaign gig for Bloomberg. And they come here for the cocktail parties. They'll believe anything I tell them. And I can merchandise anything I want about the Iran deal to them. I can tell them any lie I want, and they will just print it in Bloomberg.
It's worse than that. You get some 24-year-old, fresh out of college, $50,000 a year starting journalist, and you go to them and say, you work in the government, you say, I'm going to be your source. You are going to have all of the inside scoops on all of these stories, and it's going to make you a household name. And then they go, oh boy, I have a source. And then they're going to go to their boss and they're going to be like, here's my source in the government. They'll tell me whatever I ask. And that person's going to be like, we are going to get so many clicks. Mm-hmm. So they'll come to them and say, source says that Donald Trump, kicked a dog. And they'll be like, well, then write the source said so. And then we can't be sued for defamation because it's a true statement. Not that he kicked the dog, but that a source said he did. And that's my favorite was sources familiar with Trump's thinking. You remember all those stories?
Yeah.
They're just writing nonsense garbage.
Yeah.
So my main point with all of this was, and we're going to be doing these culture war shows every Friday. So it's going to be a whole lot more of this. I really think that the challenge we face is the culture war may be people of this social media is granting access of people of low cognitive function to spaces of high level discourse. And we respectfully allow them to have these conversations, but it's like a 55-year-old, PhD political scientist having a debate with 3 18-year-old teenage girls who don't do anything other than go on TikTok and Instagram. That's and that's it. And here's the funny thing. Those 18-year-old girls, they'll tell you all about BLM. They'll tell you all about, pride, because they're on social media.
Oh, they posted the black square?
Yeah.
They were excited to post that black square.
And then they'll be like, I know because I saw the video.
Yeah.
And you can go to them and be like, here's the study. It says you're wrong. They'll be like, nope, I'm right.
Yeah, it's called cognitive dissonance, at least one way to term it. And I think it is a good thing to have those conversations even when they feel fruitless sometimes, because it doesn't all happen at once. You don't change someone's mind in a moment. Every once in a while you do, but it's pretty rare. It usually takes time. And a lot of it is just about making people calm. I think that's a big part of the culture war and winning the culture war.
I think the goal, so for those that watched the Culture War show today, go to youtube.com/Timcast. Check it out. It was live. Emma Vigeland, Sean Fitzgerald, aka Actual Justice Warrior. We were all having this conversation. I will say, again, I felt a little bad because it did seem like two versus one, because I wasn't intending on that. But I think there's one really important point that people need to understand about why I want to do shows like this. I do not believe we will convince Emma or anyone at the Majority Report or any liberal or leftist of any of our positions, but I don't care. What I think is important is that we produced a show where Emma said that she wanted children to be able to watch porn at the age of 10 years old. And so I'm like, I don't need you to argue that point to me. I don't care. What I need to do is when I'm talking to my friend from back home in Chicago who's telling me it never happened, I'm going to play that clip of me being like, we should not be showing a book to children that contains blowjobs, and have this person on the left say, we should, and it's fine, and they're okay with it. And I'm like, that's all I needed. I needed for you to say it so I can prove to people you believe these things. So they can, I'm like, you're allowed to believe that, and she did, adamantly defend kink education and pornography for children. And I'm like, you can absolutely be on board with it. I'm not telling you to stop believing any of that. I think it's disgusting. I just need you to say it. Say it right there to the camera for everyone to watch, so that finally, when I go to my friend and say, these people want to put porn in schools, they'll say, that's not true. And I'll be like, let me play the video for you. Let me show you the clip where and here's the book. And now they'll be like, oh, I guess they do support those things.
The Borg will end up ending your career. So to come here today, I flew into Virginia. And Virginia, by every right, should have a Democrat governor. Why don't they? Many would argue that Terry McAuliffe was just unpopular or whatever. Nope. Actually, it goes directly back to a single point in time. Their previous Democrat governor on a radio show, live like we are now, said that children should be born, and then the mother should stare at her child in the bassinet and decide whether it should die. He said they should comfort the babies,
resuscitate
keep them comfortable, and then the mother should have a decision of a post-birth abortion.
I tried to explain that to people because I'm from Minnesota.
What was the guy's name? What's the governor's name?
Northam. Ralph Northam. Yep. So in Minnesota, they just passed similar legislation, right? And I was trying to explain to my friend, this was 2018 when this happened, right? It was 2018 or 2019. And somebody's like, that sounds crazy. Like that's a one-off. That's where I'm like, no. This is becoming mainstream, and in a couple of years, it will make its way to places like Minnesota, where the government is shifting very, very farther left with what's his name, Walt, right? So it's like you don't get to just laugh it off and stick your head in the sand and say this isn't happening, or I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like it's like there is an argument to be made, like depending on how politically active the person you're having this discussion with, you have to watch your tone, because if you get too, because these things upset people, right? And you're like, no, this is real, and you shove it in their face. A lot of times people just shut down and they don't want to have that discussion, right? That's a lot to just throw on someone at a moment's notice. But I think it goes to what you're saying about keeping people calm, because you have to keep them calm and informed, because as these things continue to happen, as these things continue to grow in other legislations, you need the evidence that these people actually think this way, because it does sound ridiculous.
Because that's child sacrifice. Yeah. By every definition, that's the sacrifice of a child. That's child sacrifice. It's not like it's not a pejorative, metaphorical child. It's a literal child sacrifice. Like Aztec level child sacrifice is what the governor of Virginia advocated for. And so Democrats need to own that, because that's their party, and you need to absorb the fact that that's what you represent.
They just run fact checks saying it didn't happen, it didn't happen, it didn't happen. And then what they'll do is they'll run a headline that says, did Ralph Northam on a video advocate for and explain post-birth abortion? False. And then what they'll say is, the governor was referring to babies who were born with abnormalities who could not survive on their own and needed resuscitation. He was not talking about abortion.
Weasel words.
Is that true?
The point is, You can't abort a baby that's already been born.
It wouldn't be post-birth abortion. It would be a murder.
Exactly.
Or a sanctioned death if you make it legal.
And so they can say he wasn't talking about abortion because the fact of the matter is he's talking about killing a baby.
But he was talking about killing children that had like severe deformities and wouldn't survive.
I don't think
so. No, he was not. He was saying
not.
like
He was talking
it should
about
just
a
be the
bill.
mom's decision.
He was talking about a bill on the floor of the Virginia Senate. They had written that bill, and the bill was written in a way that the mom could decide that once the baby's born, she doesn't want it.
There was a judge that asked, what was her name? Was it Nancy Tran? Was her name? Do you want someone to fact check real quick? He said, so let me get this straight. With your bill, a woman could get an abortion up to the point of birth, and she goes, there are no restrictions. And he goes, the baby is crowning, and she goes, there are no restrictions.
Yeah.
And so that's what he was talking to specifically. Was it?
It was like if they botched it a late term and then the baby was out of the womb, then what would you do? I think was the context for Northam saying, we'll comfort it and make a decision.
It's Kathy Tran. I always say Nancy for some reason. Sorry.
They're saying they're taking a mother who's gone through something that is like physically traumatic, right? The entire process, right? And she's starved of oxytocin. Her body's going through all of these things. They're saying, hey, you want to keep the kid? That's insane.
That's insane.
It's insane.
That's insane. But
Snopes, did you see it? The claim, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, quote, stated he would execute a baby after birth. Mostly false.
I hate these people.
It's not totally false. Just mostly false because it's ambiguous. They don't know.
You're going to make us play the clip, aren't you?
Alex Jones was on our show and did a great Ralph Northam
Virginia Governor
impression.
Ralph Northam say he would execute a baby after birth? They put it in quotes. And they put mostly false.
So it's kind of true.
He did not state he would execute it. See, nobody said he said that.
Yep.
And the ambiguity of Northam's remarks about late-term abortions, which has not since clarified, raised questions about what exactly he was proposing or advocating. He literally... All right, do we have the clip? Do they even play the clip? Oh, man. Hey, props to them for playing this. Can we have...
This bill would remove the following statutes: trap or targeted regulations of abortion providers.
Let me see if I can...
...is worthy of an abortion.
I'm not going to play the whole thing.
Chairman,
this is another thing that, like, they should play this.
The Northam clip is short, and if you can find that's short. He's just like, the baby will be kept comfortable while we decide.
Let's turn back to NBC4's Julie Carey.
And governors, the issue of abortion rights emerges every year in the General Assembly session. This year, no exception. There was a very contentious committee hearing yesterday when Fairfax County Delegate Kathy Tran made her case for lifting restrictions on third trimester abortions, as well as other restrictions now in place. And she was pressed by a Republican delegate about whether her bill would permit an abortion, even as a woman is essentially dilating, ready to give birth. And she answered that it would permit an abortion at that stage of labor. Do you support her measure and explain her answer?
Yeah, and I wasn't there, Julie, and I certainly can't speak for Delegate Tran, but I would tell you first thing I would say is this is why decisions such as this should be made by providers,
programming.
Physicians.
Here's the programming. The programmed answer.
The mothers and fathers that are involved. There are, when we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion. But again, we want the government not to be involved in these types of decisions. We want the decision to be made by the mothers and their providers. And this is why, Julie, that legislators, most of whom are men, by the way, shouldn't be telling a woman what she should and shouldn't be doing with her body.
But wait.
Should have to weigh in as is currently required. She's trying to lift that requirement.
Well, I think it's always good to get a second opinion, and for at least...
I wanted that to play out to show you that the context did not circle back and that there was no other further clarifying points. And I want to stress, he outright said... The context of the conversation was no restriction abortions up to the point of birth. And he said, yes. And the doctor and the mother should make that decision. And then he goes on to explain a circumstance in which the baby is delivered and brought into another room.
And I'm sorry for interrupting. My headphones cut out. I thought that the clip had ended. Sorry about that.
No, this is, I mean, be capable, have the moral fortitude to call people demons. Be capable of calling out demonic, blackened spiritual activity when you see it. They want to desensitize you. They want you to think that this is normal. This is not normal. This is depraved evil from the pit of hell. Do have the capacity as a moral person. You don't even have to be a Christian, Muslim, Jew, doesn't matter to me. As a moral person, you should be able to stand up for the life of a small, helpless infant who was just born, as I have held my little newborn babies in my hand, and say, you do not deserve to die. And someone who is wishing to take your life is a literal demon. Thank God that man and his party lost in the great state of Virginia.
So I want to point out the Snopes headline. Mostly false. He did not state he would execute a baby after birth. Well, that's an opinion statement. If we said that he verbatim said he would execute a baby, that's false. But if I were to say Northam talked about executing babies and said that that's exactly what would happen, that is a true statement. Snopes is obfuscating this. They say the ambiguity of his remarks about late-term abortions. What? She asked, could a woman get an abortion at the point of labor? And he says, well, yeah, it's up to the doctor and the mother to decide. If it's up to the doctor and the mother to decide, he's basically saying that they could choose yes if need be. So the simple point is the left immediately goes to, he's talking about deformity and abnormality. And my response was like, you think deformed people should be killed? Like that's crazy to me. I don't think so. If the baby's alive, don't kill it.
What a great question. Okay, so should all deformed people be killed? What about a 21-year-old deformed person? What does that mean?
This is the crazy thing.
People in wheelchair be deformed?
Me and this guy over here, pro-choice, arguing with a leftist about this stuff, and it's the weirdest position to be in. It's because there's no moral position behind their words. They are just regurgitating what they were told, and they're trying to... You know why Snopes lies about this? This is the point I was making. The reason why I want to do these shows, why we had, I believe, Matt Binder, as well as Lance, say there should be no restrictions at all on abortion, even up to the point of birth. Let them say it, because I'm not here to try and convince them otherwise. I need them to just say it to the camera so then we can show people they actually believe that.
You got to point out where this leads, though. This leads to eugenics. This is simply eugenics.
Iceland. They've eugenicsed out Down syndrome. Yep.
That's right. That's exactly. And the Third Reich did the exact same thing.
People in the comment sections when you talk about that are crazy. Just like, yeah, of course you should get rid of the people. Like they actually believe that. Like the people in the comment sections, anyone on Twitter talking about that, absolutely 110% believe.
I just want to point out that I hate the way that Northam talks. Like the way that he answered that question, it's like this lefty newspeak, and you should really like listen in. So the first thing he says was, "I wasn't there." When the question was, there's a viral video of this woman answering questions. It's like, who cares if you were there? I wasn't there, but I can see the video. So it's a misdirect right off the bat. He says consent 2 or 3 times because consent is a positive word. Like, are you against consent? What's wrong with you? Like, and all of that leads up to him own goaling himself and saying, well, the baby will be delivered and, we put a blanket around it and then we'd have a conversation about killing it. It's the craziest thing possible. Yeah, right. It's insane, but he masks it in all this distraction.
Here's CBS News from 2017. What is it? Okay, they obfuscate the headline. Inside a country where Down syndrome is disappearing. Iceland is on the verge of eliminating Down syndrome. Okay, look. Now, hold on. We don't want people to have Down syndrome, but we don't kill people for having, right? The left advocates for the termination of a life if it does have Down syndrome. I do not believe that having what they would describe as Down syndrome. I don't believe any view of that, negative or positive, it's mostly negative, warrants the death or cessation of life. That's insane to me. But the left and Iceland, for instance, they literally argue a goal of abortion is to end the life of someone who has Down syndrome. To me, that is psychotic. And I'm pro-choice traditionally, not in the current leftist sense, which makes no sense. I think they've gone off the rails.
The whole point of him bringing up the part about deformities is because what he's preying on is the idea that you would think that nobody would do it if there weren't deformities, right? Why would somebody do that? Not realizing that most of the time when this stuff is happening, that's not necessarily going to be the situation that's going to come of it. So when they leave that conversation, they don't leave they don't leave that clip, watching that clip, thinking he just advocated for people to be able to abort a child after it's born. What they leave with is him saying, well, he's saying that if somebody's deformed, then why would you... Do you understand what I'm saying?
He said most of these cases are deformities and other problems, but the question was blanket all, no restrictions, and he did not say he was against it. He said he was in favor of that.
He just shifted the narrative.
What about when your deformity is wearing a MAGA hat?
Yeah.
Or like having a sixth toe.
Right. What about when your deformity is that your dad was a conservative? What about that? What about when that's the deformity? Because that's how this always goes. It always goes like that. And that's the way it always goes. The deformity for Margaret Sanger was a race she didn't like. And that is why Planned Parenthood was started with the express intent of getting rid of a racial population that Margaret Sanger didn't like. And that's why Planned Parenthood was started in the inner cities. These are facts. These are straight facts about Planned Parenthood and where they come from and what they were intended to do.
What's amazing is that
eugenics
is that if you're in favor of curing Down syndrome, like, some kind of medication that would like raise their IQ so they no longer have Down syndrome, they would be against you. They call you an ableist. Like, you're a bigot. What's wrong with you? But killing them before they even exist, like eliminating them in that way, well, that's woman's body, woman's choice. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you hate women? So it's wild. Like, if they went after that autism organization because they had Finding a Cure still on their website.
Also, I mean, that's very common also in the deaf community because they consider it part of their identity. So they don't want the cochlear implant. They don't want to change it because they consider it part of who they are, right? So they're saying the same thing amongst about learning disabilities, which is not inherently.
But it's one thing for you to not want it, but it's very interesting that they find the idea of curing deafness to be offensive. Like this.
I think it would be great. Like designer, I'm open to this conversation about designer babies, CRISPR technologies, like genetic technology of things in the womb, babies in the womb, but creatures in the womb of any kind. And I think if you could cure blindness or deafness in the womb early on, of course you would do that. I can't imagine why anyone would want not to do that if it was safe. If it was tested.
So there's a zoo in Tampa, and there's a small animal that there's like a manatee that was born with like a little flipper.
Nemo.
Like a Nemo, right? And these manatees are really cute. And it's in Florida, right? So there's this big manatee tank and you go underwater and it's cool lighting and there's neat music and you watch the manatees eat these giant balls of lettuce. And they just gobble up these lettuce. How's this huge animal only eat lettuce? Anyway, you see this famous little manatee only's got a little flipper. You're arguing for the killing of that manatee. Like what you're doing as a leftist is you're saying that you should have seen the manatee's flipper, and as soon as it was born, as a little teeny little ball of goo, a joyous little ball, or a panda, or whoever you happen to be, the pandas in DC, they're very famous. You're taking the panda who's born, that's a miracle, because it's very hard to breed pandas in captivity, and you're taking that panda and you're like, ooh, but the panda's black stripe isn't exactly down the middle of its face, so... see ya, and you take it out back. You keep it comfortable while you take it out back. An old yeller that thing. That's what you're arguing. You're arguing that these deformities, apply the deformities to cute little animals. Nihilism. And you see how monstrous this logic is.
Well, I'm actually against the pandas. Like, if we set this whole thing up for you to hook up and you just refuse, then honestly, like, you kind of don't deserve, like, to continue.
I understand, like, tribal hard life, where it is like we are on the move, and if we do not keep moving, our entire tribe will be wiped out. And you're like, your baby is not able to breathe properly. It's not coming with us. Kind of like, I understand where it comes from, but we don't live in that society right now.
We don't.
But still, I still support, a woman's right to choose early on in the pregnancy, personally, up to like, what is it? 16 weeks or something, when it's still in early development. That's my personal thing. And if you find out but I think a lot of times autism doesn't, or Down syndrome doesn't show up until later in the pregnancy. So that conversation, what I was just making, is kind of a moot point. Like, I don't know at what point does that start to show up in the pregnancy.
I don't know either.
I want to play this very short clip from Freedom Tunes because we're big fans of Seamus. So Seamus, we're playing your clip. Let me unmute this and just play this for you.
Have no fear! Democrat Man is here!
Democrat Man! I knew you would come save me!
What seems to be the problem?
I'm poor and have a rough family situation.
I know just the trick!
Oh boy! Where did you go?
I traveled back in time 12 years and had your mom get an abortion.
What? Ah!
All in a day's work for Democrat man.
Oh my God.
Or if it's Canada now, you can just choose maid.
Look at that. Perfect.
Get that camera out of my face.
Yep, that's right.
You got paid.
Shout out, Seamus.
Yep.
I thought that was really
Brilliant.
good. The argument that a child would be poor is not an argument for ending the life of the child.
Yes.
And it's just, I don't know. I had to play that clip. It's too good.
Oh, I looked up Down syndrome is usually detected between 10 and 13 weeks in the first trimester. This is when they start testing.
Sometimes they're wrong. And I've heard really horrible stories from a lot of parents where they were told by their doctors the child is sickly, it's not going to make it, so you need to get an abortion. And then they said no, and then they had a normal, healthy kid.
What a strange term. Down syndrome, like as opposed to up syndrome, like down. Right. Like, is that because it's down is
I think
bad?
it's named for someone.
It's just down. There's no S. I thought it was Downs also. It's a Down syndrome. Sorry.
So my wife and I had our second child last year, and the doctor comes in. This is something that is horrible for every parent. You get all these checkups, and you get the ultrasound, and they do these very sophisticated ultrasounds. The doctor comes in and goes, "I'm really sorry, but you got a problem. You have let me see if I can remember this right, an aortic, some type of aortic afibrillation, where your daughter's heart is not developing correctly. And worst case scenario, she won't be able to survive when she's born. Best case scenario, we could maybe do a open heart surgery when she's born. And so we'll have the team there, and we'll make sure that, like, we'll have the open heart surgeons there. No promises. That's what they told us. No promises. And that's what the medical experts at this very sophisticated, very good hospital, excellent hospital, private hospital, Catholic hospital, told us. And I'm not trying to put them on blast, because my daughter was born and she was perfect. She was perfect. She was a perfect angel from God. And then we brought her in. She was breathing. Her heart rate was perfect, even after every expert told us we're going to need to do open heart surgery on your daughter when she's born. We bring her in for her first week checkup to check this specific heartbeat issue where her heart valves weren't developing correctly. And they're like, it's fixed. It's a miracle.
Wow.
Your daughter's heart is, the exact words were, perfect. Now, I'm not saying that anyone advocated for me to get an abortion. They never pushed us to that. But what if you are young, and what if you didn't know any better? And what if you didn't have the same life that my wife and I have? And you heard that. And, oh man, I'm just going to carry this baby to term and it's not going to have a heart and won't be able to survive.
And then everyone in the media and all of these prominent influencers are like, don't feel guilty. Don't feel guilty. Just
No, this is you living your truth. And you're doing the kid a favor. And so my beautiful, bubbly 1-year-old named Juliet would not exist today because medical science, which was wrong, which was 100% wrong, or I'm just the recipient of a miracle.
I'll tell you.
The other way is that I'm a recipient of a miracle.
I'll tell you.
And God healed my child.
I think the lesson
Either way, they were wrong, and my child is I couldn't imagine my life without her.
Conservatives need to understand that you're not going to legislate cultural morality. This idea that you can make something illegal is nonsense. Marijuana is illegal. Everybody in the country smoking it like crazy. So this idea that you would approach the issue of abortion by saying we should just completely ban it outright, I can certainly understand the pro-life argument. Well, you would get rid of a lot of it. Sure. You need to focus on mending the culture. I think Ron Paul said it well. I think it was Ron Paul. He said it shouldn't be illegal. It should be unthinkable. If you have a culture that gloats and laughs and mocks and does like, what's that comedian who went on Netflix and said, everyone gets abortions, you get an abortion.
Michelle Wolf, I think is her name.
And I think Lena Dunham said that although she'd never been pregnant, she'd wished she had gotten an abortion or something to that effect. That is a diseased culture. That is like a culture that is sick and in need of help. So that we get to the point where we say like, that shouldn't happen. Why is it happening that people are promoting these things that are bad? And then, we say, let's not do those things.
We have a movement to destigmatize everything because stigma is considered a dirty word, but stigma is actually valuable and we should use it more often in specific circumstances. Like shaming is also a good public tool for bad behavior. Like we need societal pressure to disincentivize poor behavior. And it goes well beyond this topic, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like we could take another 2 hours and talk about the porn industry and making that illegal part of it. But it's 9:30. We're probably going to Super Chats pretty soon. I don't want to take us too deep in, but like...
We're going to Super Chats.
Give me your take. What do you mean?
Well, like YouPorn, there's potentially underage people on there, and it's not very well. And it's like even I think Emma on the show was saying that it should be legal for 9 or 10-year-olds to have. I wasn't there and I didn't see a show. I'm not putting words in your mouth, Emma, but that to have access to be able to see pornography. Like you were referencing the book in the library.
Genderqueer, and then she didn't give like a good direct answer because you can't. But she said that I was in favor of censorship when I argued that children shouldn't have access to books that depict kink and porn. And I said, yes, I am. And she goes, so you support censorship? I was like, of course I do. I was like, first of all, if you watched this show, and if you watched my show at any point, you'd know that we actually praise censorship all the time. Well, and we talk about how some things, I was like, so do you want Playboy for kids in schools? Do you want Hustler? Like, what's the line? This book is teaching children about having kink sex with an autoandrophile. And children should not be reading that. And she actually said that she defended the teacher who gave instruction on using Grindr to 10-year-olds. I'm like,
she said it was a good book.
Right. She said this book is called This Book is Gay, and she said it was a good book. And I'm like, kids should not be learning how to go on Grindr to have sex with adults.
We need a revolution in sexual education in our current society because of the way pornography has proliferated for 9-year-olds to gain access to on the internet if their parents aren't watching, or if they go to school and a kid has a cell phone. Yeah. And I don't know if making it illegal, like you're saying, if we can legislate it away. I mean, you can take YouPorn down and that will reduce the amount of it, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to...
People will still share things on their phones. Kids will still share pictures of even themselves, which is still illegal. But if they were to... When they went after Pornhub, it eliminated a good portion of their content because they did not verify the ages of a lot of the girls. I don't think that we should... Let me put it this way. When the internet first emerged, nobody cared because it was small. And they were like, nobody uses it. There's those famous videos where the newscasters are like, this internet thing's not taking off. And then someone was explaining how you could buy a movie ticket. And he goes, what's the point? I can walk down there and hand him cash. You're wasting my time. This is never going to take off. And then, of course, the internet is everything now. We need to recognize that we're no longer talking about someone walking in a dark alley with a dirty magazine, and those things sometimes happen. We're talking about someone buying a billboard in Times Square of Goatsy or something like that, and any kid can just stumble upon it and go, and we probably need to say, yeah, you can't do that. But I gotta say, we have become in many ways, it's anarcho-tyrannic. We've become authoritarian in a bunch of ways and horrifying libertarian in very, very bad ways. So we need a cohesive culture that permits liberties in some areas and restricts things in other areas. We have it backwards right now. We open internet access to insane psychotic porn where kids are getting access to it. Should not be capable. It shouldn't be able to happen. But we're just like, well, it's free speech. It's legal. You can show all of it. And then it's like, okay, there's a moral question about the limits here. You might say, don't tread on me or whatever. And my argument is, you're literally allowing people to sell graphic images to kids, and we need a way to deal with that. There are serious challenges. When we saw the CISA and, do you remember these? CISA and...
CISPA, yes, I do remember
CISA, whatever. They were under the guise of child protection. We're going to try and censor free speech on the internet. So figuring that out is very, very, very difficult. But I don't accept CISA, that we're in this era where everyone just knows and accepts that a 10-year-old kid with their phone is going to see, you want to talk about dark stuff. They can get access on their phone to videos of murders happening, of like snuff films. Yo, when I was a kid, back in my day, I'll tell you what, these are things of VHS legend. It was like, dude,
Faces of Death,
man. You ever see? Now if a little kid wants to watch someone die, they just Google it. Yeah. But for us, it was like, dude, John's got Faces of Death. No way. And you might get to see it. Maybe. I never actually saw it. I only heard about my friends who one time saw it at this one place. You go to the video store, and they would have a room with a curtain where it's like you got to be 18 to go in that room. Kids could not go in that room, so you couldn't see these things.
I was just the other day. I was looking on Twitter. It's the video of the rapper dying on stage, and I'm just like, they're saying it's like people are like, the conspiracy is that it was from vaccine injury, right? But like rappers just on stage had, like, I don't know if it was a heart attack, just keels over and dies. And I was like,
Was it a big show?
No, it was like I don't remember his name, but it was like a Houston rapper, and yeah, it's like a 45-second clip. You see him like he's performing, he kind of stops, he hesitates, and then he just keels over and dies. Probably a heart attack.
The founding fathers of the United States were dudes. Like, these guys were legit, as far as I can tell. Even if evil wins, they will tell you they were the good guys, but I think they were pretty good. The Constitution stands for itself. What would they have done with this internet?
He was a big dude.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
He's not he's not like morbidly obese. He's obese.
But you watch the video and you see him, his body just kind of tenses up and he looks like he stops and then he just keels over.
Like, I'm legitimately asking.
I feel bad.
It's really bad.
They deleted on my Twitter account the video of the immigrant stabbing people in France. I think they deleted that Twitter video.
And
do you agree with that?
That's tough because Twitter is not a space for children. It is a news reel. So I think a sensitivity filter with an age restriction probably would be the appropriate way to deal with it. But Twitter was probably reacting to fears of advertisers and negative press. It's simple. Put a sensitive filter on it. Make it so that not only do you have to be signed in to see it, you got to press a filter button and enter your age. So it's triple layered. And then it keeps the newsworthiness available for people. You make it so ads will never appear next to it. And kids shouldn't be able to get access to it, assuming they're logged in and of appropriate age. We do got to go to Super Chats, though. But there's a difficult question there. All right, I'm not your buddy guy says, our socialist healthcare isn't great. Here in Alberta, a woman who needs an organ is being left to die because she won't get the COVID jab. Even our federal courts have refused to hear the case. Wow. It's freaking brutal. He goes on to say, congrats to Benny for the 1 million subs. Finally, I hope people still hear what happens here in Canada once Bill C11 comes into effect. We'll find out soon. I guess we'll welcome China. Congratulations on 1 million. Was that, you just hit 1 million or?
This week, yes.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
Benny Johnson show. On
This
YouTube
week.
or on Twitter?
On YouTube.
Nice, dude.
At Benny Johnson.
They're going to send you the gold plaque? Is that what it is?
We have many gold awards. We use one to prop the window open.
Shout out to YouTube.
Look, YouTube's been YouTube demonetized. We should have talked about this.
Yeah,
YouTube
Luke,
demonetized
we brought it
Luke.
up a couple days ago.
And it's and Glenn Greenwald's tweeting about it. Elon responded to it. YouTube unquestionably is interfering in the election for the benefit of the Democratic Party. Hands down. Luke Rudkowski, who's been on the show all the time, and he talks on his show about the exact same thing he talks about when he's on this show. Well, he might get a little spicier in some areas and talk more on foreign policy. And they claimed reused content, which is a false demonetization. Luke does very similar videos to me where he shows articles and comments on the news, and they claimed it was reused content. Reused content is for when you take someone else's video and post it to your channel without doing anything with it.
So here's the thing that got Luke. And I DM'd him. I said, Luke, hit me up, dude. I know exactly what happened to you because it happened to my channel. When you're doing shorts, which YouTube is pushing a lot of eyeballs to shorts, you need to be in those shorts and you need to be commenting on them. That needs
so you're
to
saying
be you.
Luke was posting full
clips.
minutes of other people's videos.
Yeah. Luke was posting clips, and that hit my channel too. So about a year ago,
without him in it.
So you need his face in the corner or something while it's happening?
So you need to comment on it, right? Dude, you got to see this photo of this kid in California. You can't believe he did this at a BLM rally. You show the clip, and then you're like, dude, that's crazy.
That's what Jeremy Quartering does.
And you react, right, to this. YouTube needs you to be in, the creator needs to be in the content.
Oh.
I'm not trying
for YouTube Shorts, Luke was doing that?
For YouTube Shorts, this happened to my channel. So YouTube Shorts is a relatively new product.
I see.
You just upload a clip.
Corrected.
Joe Biden falls down the stairs. YouTube. You just slap in the clip in there and you just send it out. I wanted to talk with Luke. I'm like, dude, this is what it is. You can't just upload any clip to Shorts. You got to be a part of that clip.
Then I will say, stand corrected, apologize to YouTube in that regard, and then criticize YouTube for taking down the video with RFK Jr. and Jordan Peterson, which is a contending presidential candidate having his opinions taken down with massive approval in the polls. That right there is interference.
I'm just trying to be a dude.
Maybe screwed up.
I'm just trying to be a dude and say this is how, like, Luke, this is how you fix that issue of the demonetization and the unoriginal content, because it happened to my channel.
All right, let's grab some more super chats. Akinsu Ocha says, glad to have you back. Just like all leftists, that woman was hard to listen to because she kept putting words in everyone's mouth and wouldn't let others talk, but it needs to be done to further the conversation and respect it. Well, look, I appreciate her coming on. I know the majority of poor people really do want to come on this show. Out of all the people we invite, they're the ones who are begging to come on the show. Emma hit us up and we were like, absolutely, we'll have you on. But I do want to point out my favorite moment in the show was when she repeatedly she asked me what I liked about DeSantis's policy. And then I started talking about COVID restrictions and leadership. And then she interrupted me and said, no policy. And then I said, okay, well, the culture war stuff obviously matter a lot. And then when I brought up specifically, she goes, no, what is he doing now? And I'm like, okay, well, removing these books. She goes, I don't want to hear about anecdotes. I want to talk about the bigger picture. And I'm like, you literally asked me for a specific example. I gave you one and you got mad at me for it. So it was like, what I think happened was, I believe that she was given talking points before the show, likely by Sam or someone else at the Majority Report. And she had a list of things that she was
Cedar all along.
Well, probably.
Sam.
And so the issue is,
Kidding,
if
Sam.
she's told to say something and then I respond, she won't know how to respond to it because she only has one canned question and no canned.
I got to watch the interview. It's building up. I've only seen like 15 minutes of it so far, so I'm excited to watch this.
Saying like, what do you support about DeSantis? And my response is, does he even have a presidential campaign? I don't know what he's running on, and I'm not for the guy. Like, why are you asking me this? But I assure you, they'll edit all of these things to be like, here are gotchas that don't make sense.
Yeah, I saw a lot of it on Twitter so far.
Tim, are you being triggered right now? I've lowered my voice after I've aggravated you.
Right.
There's a term for that in psychology where you get the other person upset and then you're like, you're so upset. What's wrong with you?
I call
And you get them on video.
I call it NPR voicing when they go to the NPR voice where they're
clip
smooth
farming, right? It's funny. I was watching a clip with Joe Rogan. I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast. And then he goes, one guy asked him a question. I can't remember the question. He goes, what are you doing? Are you trying to make a viral clip right now? I was like, yes. Now, his friend probably wasn't doing that. I think Joe was being silly. But this is literally why we don't have these people on the show, because they intentionally come on, will say something shocking, provocative, or nonsensical so they can get a drama clip to make money. Let me just stress, the Majority Report has like 170 clips about Dave Rubin. Okay, Dave Rubin has his own channel and he talks, but he is like, look, we have a bunch of clips about Biden and Hunter and Trump. David Pakman has a bunch of clips about these people. Okay, I get it. We're talking politics here. We're going to talk about world leaders. But Dave Rubin? Why are you making clips about Dave Rubin? Why are you making clips about me?
World leaders, baby.
They're not. It's not. It's because it gets rage.
That's
it's
why.
Rage bait. It's e-drama. It's internet blood sports. So this is why I'm like, I normally don't invite people like this on the show. Because I know that all they're going to do is come on and they're going to say things with the intent to get a viral clip on.
Well, know that that's going to happen. It's called reactive abuse in psychology. So if someone does try to trigger you or work you up in a conversation, stay calm.
Oh yeah, but I don't care. Like, you know,
Benny knows.
The thing where she was like, I'm sorry I triggered you, was because she literally said, why do you think your show appeals to neo-Nazis?
Oh yeah, I have an answer for that. Because I think people that might be radicalized into becoming a neo-Nazi in their lifetime will see shows like this and become de-radicalized.
But the point is, the show doesn't. In fact, we get threats from neo-Nazis, and even staunch conservatives are very critical of us. It was the goal of it was to get a viral clip on the internet that didn't matter what I said to her. It didn't matter if I responded at all. All that matters is they get a clip of her saying it and splice together with something else and then make a fake segment for their show, because that's what their show is: drama, grifting, garbage.
And how aggravated you got when she accused you, by the way, of inspiring a violent terror attack, which you should be angry about. Like, when somebody tries to put that on you.
My point is, it didn't matter if I got aggravated or said nothing at all. No matter what I did, they would take that clip and then splice it with something else. And so we then bring up the point. There was one guy who was posting stuff who had watched the Majority Report. You mentioned the guy Gavin Long, who said he was inspired by the Young Turks. And then she to me was like, I don't know. And she didn't respond to it because the goal, here's my assumption. Sam said, specifically ask this question. It doesn't matter what they say afterwards. We need this clip for our show because it'll trick a bunch of morons into watching. Right? I don't think he said that specifically. That's what his intent is. So afterwards, when Sean then brings up a legitimate point of how could you say that when you have, say, the Young Turks where you used to work was the actual inspiration for a guy who claimed it was. And she goes, I don't know. She didn't respond in any capacity because it wouldn't do anything for their clip. She said the thing, it's on camera, they can make the clip. Anything after that is pointless. So now it's like, she's just literally like, I'm done with the conversation. I came here, I got what I came for. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
It's grifting garbage. And so I even said that I was like, this is why people, Sam Cedar is blacklisted from a whole bunch of shows.
Sam Cedar, baby. Love that guy.
He's blacklisted. He knows he is. And I loved that she goes, it's because they're scared of him. It's like, oh, shut up. It's because they loathe him.
Destiny did say if there was any liberal or anyone on the left he was afraid to debate, it would be Sam Cedar. Sam is notoriously, he's a brilliant man. Whether or not you like him personally is almost irrelevant in that capacity.
I think it's just e-drama nonsense. And then he makes videos about Dave Rubin and me and other YouTubers because it's just, you've got people on YouTube and you want to get clicks. So you target the community that they're a part of, which is YouTube. So we're a podcast. We're on all different podcast platforms. She made comments about how they can't get the corporate investors like we do. And I'm like, what? Like, we don't have any corporate investors. She goes, we can't get sponsors like you do. And I'm like, what? We currently have no sponsors. And on the podcast, I think we have like 4. Like, what are you talking about? They're saying things that are plumb not true because they're lying to their audience and their audience just believes it. It's low tier internet drama garbage.
I like to extricate that from people's careers and kind of refine the process to have more elucidated educational conversation.
It's going to be T-Rex Pet Shop says, when Emma accused you and asked why Nazis watch your show, to clarify the context, it was a guy who posted 4 screenshots. Was it screenshots?
Screenshots from like the YouTube app of the same video.
Same video. And it showed that he wasn't subscribed to the channel. And then she said he posted clips from the show. I said, no, he didn't. It was screenshots.
And to be clear,
so she didn't even know what she was talking about.
It was actually 2 because they're like the same time code, more or less like a second off. So it's like something I do when I see something and I want to respond to it, screenshot the app and you save that time code so you can go back and revisit it.
What if the Nazis could have won World War II by taking pictures of Americans and putting them on their walls at home? Oh, they were watching us. Therefore, we must. What does that have anything? Who cares who's watching?
I'm going to read this one.
I digress.
T-Rex says, when Emma accused you and asked why Nazis watch your show in the culture war, all her future arguments weren't taken seriously in my mind. That was the stupidest argument ever. Her reputation is now ruined. Support anti-woke, pro-freedom T-Rex Pet Shop. The point is, she did not come here to have a real conversation. In fact, before the show started, I said, is there a subject you guys would like to start with? And she says, I'm fine to talk about whatever. And then I said, I was under the impression that Sean and Emma, you guys want to talk about crime. We can talk about Jordan Williams, I believe his name is. And then Sean said yes. And then Emma said yes. And then as soon as we started the show, she immediately started talking about Sam and music videos and just the personal social stuff.
The compound. Like, I'm in your compound, so you have money. Like,
she was like, I am here in your compound. You have money. I'm like, yeah, it's all members. Like, we got rid of all our sponsors. We only had 4. Now we only have on the podcast side of thing like 4 or 5, and all of the revenue is basically programmatic, but primarily members. And then she said something about like us having Rumble money or something.
She was disappointed she didn't see the skate park.
It was like Rumble has investors or something like that. Therefore, you have Rumble investors. Like
Rumble gave me an award for having subscribers, just like YouTube did. The other funny thing they like to do is they have to claim that tons of people live here. They don't. This is an office with a skate park in it, and try to make it seem like it's creepy and culty. Or I guess Sam was implying we have children here or something like that in the basement.
Oh my God. What?
I don't know exactly
what
what he said.
Is that?
Are you keeping them comfortable?
Timcast.
Saying something like, who are these kids he's bringing to come skate? How old are they? But I don't watch it. This is just what I was told. And so,
Cedar.
But they have to do it because the reality of it is we have a building that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors. So there's a basement and a sub-basement. Sub-basement has a skate park in it. And then there's 3 above ground floors, and actually split into 2 different above ground sections, and on 10 acres, plus the construction of Freedomistan. If you were to go to someone and they say, where do you work? It's like, I work at a recording studio. It's got a music studio. It's got 2 podcast studios. We have rock stars coming and going, presidential candidates, and there's 2 skate parks inside. People are going to be like, that sounds like the best workplace ever. Yeah, there's a bunch of food there. There's booze. You know, within reason, people drink when they feel like it. You can hang out downstairs and play pool, or just go to the skate park. Skate park outside, fresh fruit all over the trees.
There's actually a sauna on the premises as well.
And there was a hot tub for a minute. That they have to tarnish, because it's like, we can't let people think that something cool is actually possible or happening here. So then they try and do things where they say on these shows that like it's a bunch of guys living in a weird house. What a creepy cult. And it's like no, that's not true.
No, it's a company. If there was no company and you were just like, hey guys, come hang out at my house, then it would be a weird cult. But it's like a company where people
skateboarders literally do that. Famously, I think America had the skate mansion where all their pros and ams lived in one big house in California. Like that's literally what they did.
Razors used to have that in skating as well.
Yeah, it's like a thing that these companies do. But we should definitely read more.
But real
super
quick,
chats.
even if it were true that you had like all the people living here, which I've looked around, I didn't find anybody hidden in the basement while you weren't looking. But their content creator houses are so normal in other non-political like realms. Like they never criticize those,
Content
as
houses
far as
are
I
very
know.
normal.
Like that's like an actual thing in a business model.
Well, that's the point. Like
hype house.
They
hype house, like half of TikTok's hype houses.
So I'll tell you another thing they did. We were skating at Freedom Plaza in DC, and they got really, really angry because they couldn't muster up any kind of cultural defense. I said, we're all going to go skate in DC. Everyone show up. And they started issuing threats. They started calling companies, threatening them if they dared associate with me in any way. It didn't work. Tons of people showed up. But I'm skating in the Freedom Plaza, and someone goes online on a skate forum, a prominent one, and says Tim Pool was there and he couldn't do a pop shove it. Pop shove is a very, very basic trick that children do. Why would they lie about that? Because if they went out and said Tim Pool rolled up and did a nollie 540 big spin first try and he did a switch hard flip late flip, you have no idea what I'm saying, but skateboarders would be like, damn, I didn't know Tim was that good at skateboarding. And then all of a sudden it's like, we can't let this guy have cultural influence. So I will shout out the Barracks, the most prominent skate brand in the world, posted a clip of me doing a 1 foot nollie 360. So my point is this. They're very, very terrified of our cultural endeavors to the point where they're desperately trying to make it seem bad.
Yes.
That's why the Majority Report played our song in such a way, I'll describe, that made it sound really, really bad and then said it sounded really bad. And then she comes on the show and she's like, we don't have the technology to do that. I'm like, you literally did it. You played it through like some speakers so it sounded like garbage and then said the music was garbage and look how bad it sounds to trick your audience is what they do. Anyway, we should read super chats instead of me just ranting. Where we go? I'm going to have to read a lot more about it. David Toronto says, Sean Strickland needs to train Elon. Get him on the show, by the way. The after show would be phenomenal. I'm 6'3", 33 waist, not huge at all, and I weigh 200. Elon is at least 230. Agreed.
Yeah, it says 198 on his profile.
Fake
198.
Yeah, 6'2", 198.
Legomathagayan says that, I'm going to paraphrase because I think there's a bit too much invective, but I do want to appreciate your super chat and read it. He said that seeing Emma Vigeland mouth off at Sean about crime was sad. He said a lot more than that. He said it was like seeing a disoriented baby fur seal arrogantly charge into the swinging arc club wielded by a burly, disgruntled, drunken Canadian fur trapper who hasn't had the comfort of a woman or a hot meal in a year. Okay, so I read it anyway because it was good, but a little too much invective.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Write a screenplay.
The thing too. The thing that's really interesting about these conversations with leftists is they never know what my political positions actually are.
It's amazing.
Right. And so they're like right-wing shows like this. The funny thing was in the beginning, she claimed this show had appealed to neo-Nazis, but then later claimed that you were too right-wing for our audience.
Yeah. Your moderate audience.
Our moderate audience. And she claimed that the reason I say that we have a moderate audience is to try and trick people. And I'm like, the people who are listening, who view themselves as moderates, are being tricked into thinking everyone else is moderate. What is their argument? I just don't.
They're so scared. They're so scared that we're creating culture because culture is intrinsically edgy, artistic, something that pushes the limits, and they are now the establishment. Yeah. They are the ones shilling for forever war. They're the ones shilling for the Justice Department and the super state and the police state. They are the establishment, and we are actually the punk rockers.
Dude.
And they can't believe that we're the ones now running Rolling Stone.
And but there's a belief that it's a competition. Like if Timcast wins, Majority Report loses, or vice versa. But the reality is we lift each other up. These conversations, Emma coming on this show earlier, being here, we're all gaining from this. This is.
Oh yeah, this isn't Twitch. Like we're actually not competitors, like because we're both on YouTube. But like Twitch, you have to stream and all that. But we can grow in our own separate areas and have crossover because people can always come back and watch the content.
All right. Roma Nation says, Tim and Benny, you two are the reason why I've started the Roma, Rise of Middle America cast. You are an inspiration to truth and look forward to chatting with you too soon. Right on, man. Appreciate the super chat. Best of luck.
Dude. Based. This is a podcast. I will sub.
Roma.
Is it a YouTube channel or a podcast?
It just says RomaCast.
RomaCast.
ROMA.
Okay.
Let's see.
Let's find it.
Jason Hutchison says, Tim, you're explaining the Dunning-Kruger effect. Yes, that's right. When people are too stupid to know they're stupid.
Yep. That page is Romanation, by the way.
Romanation?
Romanation.
Yep.
Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Emma kept trying to do gotcha clips for her show. Not trying, she literally was. It doesn't matter if she actually gets us or not, or me particularly. What matters is they're going to edit it anyway. Like, look, we put out a song and you don't have to like it. There's a lot of songs that come out all the time by a lot of people, and most people don't like any of those songs. Taylor Swift may be the most popular musician in the world, but out of 7 billion people, I'd imagine 95% of people don't like her music. And that's okay. You make things for the people who like the things. So we made a song, and then they played it on their show in such a way that it sounded really awful through some kind of filter, and then told their audience, it sounds awful. Look how awful it sounds. It sounds like Nickelback, which it literally does not. Because, and that's a really good example of the culture war too. Saying that our music sounds like Nickelback, it's because, as I think you were mentioning, Benny, programmable people. Nickelback is a buzzword for uncool and it's a meme.
Like Creed.
Yeah, it's like you're
Both great bands, by the way.
You're not allowed to like Nickelback. Nope. That's basically it. If you're on the left and you like Nickelback, they're gonna laugh at you, which is ridiculous. I think Nickelback had the best cover of Devil Went Down to Georgia ever, though I'm not really a big fan of their music.
What's the one to the bottom of everybody? To the bottom of every bottle.
That was a Billboard #1 for like 6 weeks. But that was the point. Even though our music sounds literally
Look at this photograph.
Yeah.
That's
like a meme.
That's
The
a
best
bank
meme.
bill. A pre-Federal Reserve bank bill. All right.
Look at this bank bill.
Dude, I'm going to be singing
The
Nickelback
Federal
tonight.
Reserve sucks.
We'll grab a couple more super chats
Is
here.
Nickelback based?
I don't know, but man, when you sing How You Remind Me, and you sing it like he's singing it, and you start to feel it, it is based. He might have had an alcohol problem at the time. I think he's.
Eliuna says, totally disagree, Tim. Your goal for culture war shouldn't be to get the sound clip of talking about them showing kids graphic images. The win is 2 hours exposing her total cognitive dissonance. Great job today. I appreciate it. I think Destiny's fantastic. You guys know Destiny?
Yes.
We've had him on several times. We have real conversations. We have disagreements on morality, political structures. But I know that when he comes, he'll actually listen to the words coming out of my mouth. And then we'll end up by saying like, that's a good point, but I still disagree. And he'll say, okay. The same is true for conservatives. I also watched a clip of Destiny just mouthing off at someone. That was the funniest stuff. I think he's great. I disagree with him a lot. I think most people who watch our show might probably disagree with him a lot, but probably actually like him a lot too. That to me is a real conversation. That's the conversation I want to have. I would like to have Destiny be like, here's my position on surrogacy, and then sit down with a conservative who opposes it, and then we'll actually have a real discussion on the issues. We do that all the time with libertarians and conservatives, but it's so hard to find liberals.
Yes.
Because they don't actually have positions.
The Krasensteins come on here, right?
Yeah. They came on once.
The Krasensteins come on here.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, I thought so too. I interact with them a lot on Twitter, and I think that
getting banned fixed them. Like it helped them understand. I should say. I don't want to be. I don't. Saying fixed them is rude. I apologize for that. I think that they understood finally when they were wrongly banned what was going on, and then came out of it like maybe we should have paid attention a little bit because that was an unjust banning. And now I disagree with them a lot of their positions, but it genuinely seems like they'll actually engage with you in an honest way.
So I believe that the beginning of everyone's journey to actual real knowledge politically is being able to criticize your own side. Yeah. That's how you can tell if you are talking with a cult member or somebody who's actually a rational human being who's on their way to namaste, right? If you're able to criticize your own side, you should listen to the Johnson household. Kate and I are doing nothing but talking S on Republicans. I hate Republicans so much more than Democrats because Republicans, Democrats at least have the goodness and kindness in their hearts to stab me in the face. They tell me exactly where they're going to stab me and how they're going to do it. Yeah. Republicans stab me in the back. And so I am so much angrier at Republicans than Democrats on a daily basis.
All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Become a member at timcast.com. Buy your coffee from castbrew.com. K-Cups are on their way. I'm really excited for this. The decaf brews, all of it's coming in. And I just want to stress this. We have not made any money yet. So we would appreciate it if you would buy our product. So what I should say is we have sold a lot. It has been profitable, but we've had to put all of that money plus more into doing more. I think we're upwards of like 300 or 400K in the first 4 roasts, then K-Cups, and all that initial investment is massive. And then you guys buy it, and then the product goes down, we make profit, and then we reuse that profit to add more products. So it's all the investment cycle. So it's working. We're really excited for it. Things are expanding, and we really do appreciate all of your support. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL basically everywhere. You can follow me at Timcast. Benny, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, you can go ahead and join. A million people can't be wrong. You can join our YouTube channel. I might as well just toss it out there. I've been following along in the comment section. I see some names that I recognize from our show. We just want to say thank you. We've done 1 million subs in less than 1 year of actually cranking on content, and we've decided to really invest in that community, and so we're proud of it. We love you. We thank you. We love coming back here and doing the show. I think this is my 4th time on Timcast, and we thank Tim and this audience, because coming on this show really helps boost your audience. If you have something good to offer and you really dedicate your time and do the hard work, and don't just assume that an audience just comes for free. You have to work and grind, sleepless nights and weekends and everything, but we are here for you, and we just want to say thank you. We love you.
Right on.
I'm at Actual Justice Warrior on YouTube. Don't have 1 million subscribers yet, but you guys could fix that tonight. Just go all and subscribe. I really appreciate my gold play button. I have a website, actualjusticewarrior.com. You can find all my links right there.
Guys, if you want to follow me, it's at Brett Dasovic on Instagram and Twitter. And Pop Culture Crisis is live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific. We had a great episode today with Heather and Derek Hunter. It was really, really good. You should go and check that out.
I'm Ian Cross, and I will be live tonight with Elijah Schaefer on Slightly Offensive on YouTube. We will be going live in about 15 minutes, 10:15 Eastern Standard Time. It is coming up, so get ready to click over, join Slightly Offensive on YouTube, also on Rumble. I'm going to be happy to see Elijah. My man, Benny,
nice.
Always great. Dude, Sean, excellent to see you, my man. Tim, welcome back. Brett, and Serge Dupre.
So Elijah's still in Australia?
I think so.
Yeah, because that's 11 o'clock. He starts to stream at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's crazy.
He's doing a favor for me because I had the show tonight, so he might be staying up a little later than normal, but we'll find out when we go live on Slightly Offensive.
Yeah, Elijah Schaefer's a good dude. I talk to him on Twitter quite a lot. Yeah, anyways, good show. Pleasure to see you, Benny, and pleasure to be acquainted with you, I should say, rather. I've seen you on YouTube a couple times, so yeah, anyways, good show, guys. Serge.com on Twitter. See you later.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I apologize for being out all week except for today, but got my voice back. Should be back perfectly on Monday, and we'll see y'all then.